This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate first part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Nagato. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
A figure in a spiral mask entered the room where Pain, the leader of AIM and the figurehead leader of Akatsuki, was meditating. He said, "Zetsu has returned from his fact-finding mission. Assemble the others so he may update everyone on the Jinchuriki." Conan approached Pain after he nodded and asked, "Are you ready, Nagato?" "Conan, if you had a choice between me and Akatsuki, which would you choose?" Pain asked, closing his eyes. Staring at Pain, Conan remarked, "I am with you, always, Nagato." Pain nods and says, "Good, let's go." He and the other members of Akatsuki appear in a cave using the projection jutsu. Deidre asked, "Why are we here again?" as the final members emerged. Pain replied, "Zetsu is here to update everyone on their targets." Zetsu proceed. Zetsu continued, "The Ichibi is still as the last time I reported. The Nibi and Hachibi are both in Kumo training together, but their exact location is unknown. Sanbi Jinchuriki has died and the Sanbi has sapped into the sea and its current location is unknown. The Yonbi and Gobi are both in Iwa living as hermits while reporting to the Tsuchikage every 6 months. Where they stay usually is still unknown. The Rokubi is still in the land of water. The Nanabi status is unknown. I have already informed you of the Hachibi, so that leaves the Kyubi." Pain's eyes narrowed a little when Zetsu said, "The Kyubi has failed graduating early a second time." Pain continued, "There are still too many unknowns to begin moving right now. Zetsu, continue tracking the Jinchurikis starting with those in Iwa. The rest of you continue your fund gathering missions." Dismissed. Conan and Pain returned to their hiding place in AIM after the jutsu ended, and Nagato said, "Conan, please put up a privacy jutsu." After giving Nagato a quick glance and blinking, Conan put one up and asked, "What's wrong?" Pain glanced at her and said, "Conan, remember earlier when I asked you if you had a choice between me and Akatsuki? The reason is I have to betray Akatsuki." With a widening of his eyes, Conan asked uncertainly, "What do you mean?" Pain replied, My mother was Umi Uzumaki of the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool Village before it was destroyed by Iwa Nin's. Umi Uzumaki was the elder sister of Kushina Uzumaki, mother of Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Kitsune." With a gasp, Conan said softly, "He's your cousin." Pain replied, "Yes, I had sent Preta Path back to where my home was and began to look around and discovered a chest my mother had hid under one of the boards in the bedroom. If Preta Path had not stepped through the board on accident, then I would not have discovered it. I found letters between mother and Kushina. Kushina was Kyubi's second Jinchuriki. After I learned the truth about Kyubi and the history of its Jinchuriki, I learned the truth. Madara doesn't care about us. He only wants revenge against Konoha and the Uzumaki clan. As far as I know, Naruto is the only family I have left. I can't let him die." "What are you going to do, Nagato?" asked Conan. Pulling a scroll from his cloak, Pain stated, "I need you to deliver this to Konoha, to Naruto himself. I plan to stall Akatsuki movement to get him while also secretly helping him to get strong enough to defeat the others." Then Conan asked, "What is it?" Pain stated, "Everything he will need to become strong enough to face what is to come to survive." After nodding, Conan declared, "I'll leave immediately." According to Pain, "Conan, thank you," as she exploded into a shower of paper and vanished. Conan, who had begun to move toward the door, said, "I would do anything for you, Nagato. I'll return quickly." A week later, Naruto Uzumaki sighed as he entered his apartment and reached for the light switch. After shutting the door, however, a female voice said, "Are you Naruto Uzumaki? Shake your head yes or no," as a hand covered his mouth and he felt a kunai at his neck. The woman said, "Sorry for attacking you. I had to make sure that you were who I was searching for. I have something for you that I was asked to deliver to you. There is a scroll on your table I have left for you. When you wake up, read it." Naruto, horrified, shook his head in agreement, but then he felt a pressure in his neck and collapsed to the ground as a piece of paper folded like a senbon needle floated out of his neck. When Naruto woke up the following morning, he was in bed. He blinked and thought, "What the hell, what happened?" He looked around and decided that it must have been a dream. He then got out of bed and went to the bathroom, but he froze when he noticed that his table had been cleaned and that a scroll was on it by itself. Naruto thought, maybe it wasn't a dream. Naruto approached, grabbed the scroll, opened it, and started reading. "Good day, Naruto Uzumaki. Since you are in grave danger and learning my name would put you in even greater danger, I would like to introduce myself, but I am unable to do so. However, I am your cousin, so I can tell you that your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, had an older sister named my mother. My mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki, and I have a cousin," Naruto thought, his eyes widening. "I would have asked my mother about your mother, but during the Second Great War, Konoha ninja killed my mother and father in front of me. I never met your mother in person, and the only way I know about her is through letters she wrote to my mother when they were younger." When Naruto's eyes widened once more, he scowled and asked himself, why did they murder them? Since the strong prey on the weak, you may be wondering why they killed them. Power, greed, and the desire for vengeance rule the world until people comprehend pain. They cannot comprehend one another. The only way the world can genuinely comprehend peace is through suffering. Until I tell you everything, including what the people of Konoha have kept from you, you are probably confused by this because you do not yet understand what true pain is. It made Naruto wonder, what did he mean by that? I'll tell you what I think is true based on what I've learned from my mother's letters and what I've learned from hiring people to do the research for me. The Shoden Hokage's wife, Mito Uzumaki Senju, was first sent to Konoha as part of a political union between Konoha and Whirlpool, the Uzumaki clan's ancestral home. In addition to having a bloodline known as Special Chakra, the Uzumaki clan was renowned for being the world's greatest seal masters. Because of our ancestry, our chakra is stronger than other people's. Have found that you failed the Genin exam twice because you were unable to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu because of your ancestry. Your chakra is currently too powerful for it, which is why you were unable to. Along with other things, the Sandaime Hokage has concealed this from you despite knowing it. She was sent to Konoha, but Konoha betrayed her by forcing her to seal the Kyuubi in herself using her clan's sealing knowledge, turning her into a Jinchuriki, or human sacrifice. As Naruto reads this, his eyes enlarge. I know that she had the Kyuubi sealed inside of her, but I'm not positive if she was forced to part. I am also aware that your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was taken to Konoha as a young child and, as a prodigy in our clan, was appointed the second Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. According to the letters I read in my mother's diary, she wondered what had happened to her younger sister after she vanished. Since my mother was unaware of your mother's fate, I think the clan did not choose to send your mother to Konoha. Rather, I believe she was abducted and coerced into going there. Thinking, Naruto said, no, it can't be. I want to be honest with you so you can see where I'm coming from. Even though I know you're probably thinking this can't be true and I could be mistaken. As I previously mentioned, Mito Uzumaki was sent as part of a political marriage to demonstrate their allegiance. However, just 2 years after your mother vanished from Whirlpool, Iwa attacked the town, and Konoha never came to their aid. The residents of Whirlpool and the Uzumaki clan were dispersed throughout the world, and they had no idea who was alive or dead. If they were indeed our ally, why didn't they assist our people? Why was your mother the only Whirlpool survivor in Konoha? Confused, Naruto asked himself, why is that? I'll now explain why I don't trust Konoha. A few years ago, following the murder of my parents, my 2 closest friends and I attempted to bring peace to our nation. We had agreed to meet with the country's leader and a group of Konoha ninja who said they would assist us in doing so, but it was a ruse. Danzo, a Konoha ninja, is the leader of a secret army known as Root. They have the kanji for NE on a white mask, but they dress like Anbu. They took one of my friends hostage and used her as a hostage. The same friend who brought you this scroll. My best friend was killed that day by the Root and my nation's leader. Later, I learned that Danzo discovered I was an Uzumaki and that, due to the quantity of his Root ninja I had to eliminate to save the lives of my other friends, he ordered his Root ninja to start hunting down and eliminating every Uzumaki he could. For this reason, even though I only recently found out about you, I think that you and I are the only 2 Uzumaki left in the world. With a clenched fist, Naruto thought, those bastards. I think it's time to tell you how I learned about you and your mother. I know you won't like it, and you might even hate me, in which case I apologize. As Naruto reflected, I can't hate you. Following that day, I had to eliminate those Root ninja as well as the ninja that my nation's leader had brought with him. I raised an army and assassinated the leader of my nation, after which I was appointed the new leader of that nation. It occurred to Naruto, he's the leader of AIM Cool. The state of AIM country was poor. AIM is a small country, so when a man offered me the opportunity to help protect my country and its people from becoming casualties of the larger nation's battles when they got angry with each other again and went to war, I was willing to do it to save my people's lives. The larger nations, such as Fire Nation and Konoha, would use the smaller nations as their battlefields to wage war on each other, then return to their normal lives after the war was over, leaving us with the death, pain, and destruction. Thinking, Naruto said, like Mom and that Mito lady. He said that if we collected all the Biju, we could use them as a weapon to scare the other countries into leaving us alone when they fought their wars. I agreed, but that was before I learned about you. You see, in order for the plan to succeed, I had to help form a group called Akatsuki, which is made up of S-rank missing ninja. The other members of Akatsuki think that I am the group's leader, but I am not. The man who approached me and told me about the Biju is stronger than I am. The Akatsuki's job is to capture the Jinchuriki of all 9 Biju, and then we would seal them away in a special statue that the man I told you about has that can hold them. However, in order to seal away the Biju, the Jinchuriki will have the Biju removed from their bodies, and they will perish. Naruto's eyes enlarge. If I had known about you and your mother's connection to the Kyuubi, I never would have agreed, and now it's too late. All I can do is stall them. You may be wondering why my note sounds so desperate, and the answer is that I don't want you to be hurt or killed. The only reason I found out about you and your mother is because you are the third Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I didn't know about Mito or your mother back then, and I can't stop. Akatsuki, the real leader, will kill me and the woman who brought you this scroll. As Naruto's mind went into shock, the scroll fell out of his hands. Half an hour later, he carefully picked up the scroll and read on. There's so much I don't know. Naruto, I made the worst decision of my life because of my rage over my parents' deaths at the hands of Konoha Ninja and my friends' deaths at the hands of Root. There is a seal at the bottom of this scroll, and the only thing I can do is give you time, help you get stronger, and try to protect you. I sincerely hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. A scroll will emerge from the seal if you simply inject some chakra into it. You can learn a jutsu from it. There is another seal with another scroll inside that scroll once you have mastered the jutsu. This will be a recurring process. They will quickly make you very strong, so I want you to learn the more than 200 scrolls in the order I gave them to you as soon as possible. I want you to become proficient in all of them. Not just learn them, you have to get strong as quickly as you can. This scroll will destroy itself as soon as you unseal it from the bottom. Run if you see someone with red clouds on a black cloak to escape. Run as hard and as quickly as you can. Akatsuki is wearing that. Please pardon me, cousin. May you live a long life and bring our clan back together. Find happiness and hopefully peace. Don't share with anyone what you know about me, your family, Akatsuki, Root, or your status as a Jinchuriki. Say that a postal nin gave you the scroll and the items sealed inside. If someone asks where you got them, when Akatsuki spies learn that you have graduated from the Ninja Academy, I will put you in the bingo book to show you how proud I am of you. I will also include information about your mother, our clan, and your bloodline. If I learn later who your father is or was, I will also include that information and make sure you receive a copy. Goodbye. With a tear in his eye, Naruto said, I forgive you, Itoko, cousin. After that, Naruto opened the scroll from the bottom, and a short while later, the first scroll briefly caught fire before being destroyed. As he opened the scroll and read, Naruto grinned subtly and reflected, I'll make you proud, all of you. Jutsu is not Kage Bunshin. The Uzumaki clan originally developed the Junin level Kenjutsu known as Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to deal with their lineage. When the jutsu is used, the user's chakra is equally divided between it and the original due to the high chakra requirements involved in its creation. It is a kenjutsu if the user is careless or overuses the chakra requirement. It could be fatal for the Uzumaki clan. However, this is not true to the same degree as others. Their chakra is 10 times more powerful than anyone else's due to the Uzumaki clan's ancestry. Because of this, an Uzumaki chakra is only divided a fraction of the chakra, rather than being divided equally between the user and the Kage Bunshin. Additionally, a unique feature of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is that all of the knowledge the Kage Bunshin learned is returned to the original when it dispels, which explains why the Uzumaki clan would use them to practice chakra control and seals in order to better control their bloodline and learn the proper and improper ways to perform seals without blowing themselves up. It is advised that when learning Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, an Uzumaki should distance themselves from other people in a training area or the woods to prevent injuries to others and minimize property damage. The Kage Bunshin's seals are. That's cool, Naruto thought with a smile. I suppose I can start training now. His stomach rumbled at that moment, and Naruto suddenly thought, well, maybe after getting some ramen. He put his hands together and said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 7 hours later, Naruto was panting in the woods and thought, one more time. 12 Kage Bunshin then appeared, and Naruto laughed and exclaimed, I got it, before fainting. When Naruto woke up the following morning, he was still in the clearing where he had been the day before. He blinked briefly before the memories of the day before struck, and he hurried to his feet, clasped his hands together, and exclaimed, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The appearance of 20 Kage Bunshin prompted Naruto to declare, yes, I did it. Then he extracted the scroll from his weapon pouch, opened the next one, and read, Congratulations on finishing your first step in the right direction. As previously mentioned, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is a jutsu that helps you learn more quickly, but it doesn't make you physically stronger. For this reason, you should focus on training your body while your Kage Bunshin works on training your mind and chakra. However, there is a secret training method for Kage Bunshin that involves speed training a lot. The secret training is that every 5 minutes, one Kage Bunshin dispels itself to impart its knowledge to the original and the other Kage Bunshin so they can avoid the same mistakes he made and learn to do something more quickly. The kanji 1, 2, 3, and 4 are located above the 4 seals at the bottom of this scroll. The first seal is a training schedule for physical training to help you improve your body. The second is a set of 5 books to help you improve your mind. The third is a chakra control exercise called tree walking, and the fourth is the next scroll in the series. However, you should not open the fourth until you have finished the first 3 seals because the subsequent series are based on the knowledge you have gained from the current task. As he opened the physical training and unlocked the 3 scrolls, Naruto remarked, "Well, I guess we better see what we got." A set of 5-pound arm and leg weights are sealed at the bottom of this scroll, and you must wear them at all times unless you are sleeping or taking a bath. It also has a solid black stone with seals on it, and the seal is a summoning seal. You must bite your finger, put your blood on the seal, and send chakra into it until it glows blue, and then run as fast as you can. The seal is said to summon you after 4 minutes, so if you can run 5 miles in 5 minutes, your speed will be sufficient to move forward and the seal won't summon you each time you are summoned. You must put your blood on the seal, send chakra into it until it glows blue, and then run as fast as you can. In order to teach proper hand signs, there are also a pair of gloves with seals on them. You have to make the following 12 hand signs in the correct order: rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, ram, monkey, bird, emu, and boar. If you make a mistake, your hands will get a little shock and become numb until you are called back to the stone. If you make all 12 hand signs correctly, one of the glove's fingers will turn white. If you make a mistake, all the fingers will be reset to black. If you are called back to the stone, all the fingers will turn back to black. If you can perform all 12 hand signs 10 times in a row without being called back, your hand seal speed is sufficient to pass. There is a metal rod with a small hook on one side and big hook on the other, and a small punching bag and a huge punching bag in a seal at the bottom of this scroll. What you will do is hang the small bag up on the small hook and send chakra into the seal on it until it glows blue. Once you do, then you start punching right, then left, then right, then left. Keep punching, switching hands. If you can punch the bag, small bag 200 times total in 5 minutes, then the bag will get heavier and go from weighing 5 pounds to 10 pounds. If you don't make it, then the bag will remain red. If you do, then it will change color. There are 5 colors: red, blue, green, black, and white. The bag turns white, then your punching speed is passed. For this level, after 5 minutes you will have to send chakra into the seal again and start punching again in an attempt to get your punching speed up to level. The big punching bag goes on the big hook and is basically the same as the small bag, but it starts out at 10 pounds and goes up to 20 pounds with the same 5 colors. To ensure that your physical training is balanced, try running first, then punching, then kicking, and then taking a 10-minute break before beginning again. As he opened the next scroll and looked at the titles, Naruto thought, "Cool. I understand that you may think that books are boring, but there is no such thing as useless knowledge. You never know when you might be able to save the life of a friend or family member by understanding the human body. You never know when you might need to know the various chakra techniques. You never know when an enemy using water jutsu might use a certain element to stop them. And you never know when the seal at the bottom of a scroll might be a trap and instead of a storage seal, it's an exploding tag. You would never know if the plant you found in the forest was poison or medicine. However, keep in mind the secret training mentioned above. After a Kage Bun Shin reads the first page, have it create a second Kage Bun Shin and have it read the page back from memory. If it misses a word, the first Kage Bun Shin must start over and read the page again before creating a second Kage Bun Shin, who will read what it remembers. If it remembers every word on that page, fold the page's corner slightly to indicate that it is finished. Move on to the next page, and repeat the process until it runs out of chakra for the day. The following day, have a Kage Bun Shin start from page 1 and have it create a second Kage Bun Shin, who will read back what it remembered from the previous day until it reaches a page it doesn't know or messes up on it, and restart the process from that page. For novices, the human body chakra for novices. Chakra components for novices. Seals for novices. Beginner-friendly herbs and plants. Naruto looked at him and said, "Alright, maybe books are useful and using that training method will help. Let's see what the last scroll is." One of the most popular chakra control exercises in the world is tree walking, which can be performed on nearly any solid surface. The goal is to send chakra to your feet and use it to adhere to a tree. If you use too much, you will blow off, and if you use too little, you won't stick. You can never get too good at chakra control exercises. The more chakra you have, the longer you have to practice. Kage Bunshin would do this exercise daily for the Uzumaki clan. To advance to the next level, you have to be able to run up and down a tree 100 times each without stopping or touching the ground. As Naruto reflected, this won't take long. 3 weeks after that, Naruto thought, "Okay, that took longer than I thought it would, but I do feel stronger than ever and my chakra feels easier to control and I feel like I have even more chakra." After that, Naruto read the next scroll. Congratulations are exactly where a first-year college student ought to be. The smile vanished from Naruto's face as he reflected, no way was I really that bad. You have 5 seals below with the next level of chakra control, physical conditioning, book knowledge, the new field, reflex training, and lastly the next training level. This lesson is essentially the next step up from the previous one. Well, let's see what we got. Naruto thought the physical training is similar to the previous level, but instead of 5 minutes, you have 4 minutes to complete each exercise. You also need to use 10 pounds of body weight to wear underneath your clothes and 10 pounds of weights for your arms and legs. Well, that won't be too hard. Naruto thought we should investigate chakra control. You're aware that your chakra control has improved by now, but better isn't always the best. Chakra control is equally as vital as physical strength. There will be 4 even teams of cage bun shins for chakra control. The tree walking exercise you learned in the previous session will be continued by Team 1. Team 2 will start tree walking, but instead of using their feet to climb the tree, they will use their hands and knees. When you can do it on your head, you will start working on both hands. Team 3 will start with the leaf floating exercise, which involves placing a leaf on your forehead and getting it to float an inch above your head. If you have too much chakra, it will blow off, and if you have too little, it will either fall off or not move. Team 4 will start the water walking exercise, which is similar to the other chakra control exercises in that if you have too much chakra, it will blow off, and if you have too little, you will sink. However, since water is a liquid rather than a solid, it can move. So start with water that is not moving, such as a pond, stream, or river. Oh yeah, that is going to be so cool, Naruto thought, his eyes wide. Let's look through those books. There is no such thing as bad knowledge, so I hope you learned the importance of knowledge on the last day. For beginners, the human body chakra for beginners. Chakra components for beginners, seals for beginners. Herbs and plants for beginners, beginner's strategy. How to start playing chess, beginner's guide to reversi. How to start playing shogi, how to play Go for novices. I wonder why he wants me to learn to play those games, Naruto thought, blinking. Let's investigate what reflexes are. A key component of a ninja life is reflex training, which will save you nearly as much as chakra and physical strength. Reflex training is one of the easiest things to understand, but it's also one of the most difficult to practice. It's easy. You learn to dodge and block. Sounds easy, doesn't it? The 100 rubber balls that have the color-changing seal on them are included below. You will have to create 25 cage bun shin, each of whom will receive 4 balls. They will then circle you, channel chakra into the balls, and throw them at you, attempting to dodge as many as you can while attempting to catch them. Each time you catch one, you will tie them to your waist, and if the ball hits the ground, it will remain its current color. If it hits you, it will change color. If the ball reaches white, that is considered 1 kill against you. Once the cage bun shin run out of balls, they will grab as many free balls as they can, reset around you once more, and repeat the process until either all the balls kill you or you catch them all. You will be prepared for the next test when you can dodge long enough to catch all 100 balls without getting killed once. Water walk for an hour, float leaves on both hands and your head, and complete all physical exercises in 4 minutes. Naruto thought, that's fantastic, a sadist is my cousin. When Naruto hobbled into his apartment that evening, he thought, I hate you Kus. After 5 weeks, Naruto thought, today is the day, all I have to do is dodge 3 more balls and I'll finish this level. As he locked the door to his apartment to continue his training, he turned and began to descend the stairs. When he reached the ground level, an Anbu appeared in front of him and said, Naruto Uzumaki, the Hokage would like to see you. Kindly arrive at the Hokage office right away. Despite his frown, Naruto nodded before turning and moving in the direction of the Hokage tower. After 10 minutes, Naruto entered the Sandame's office and greeted him with the words, Hey Gigi, what's up? Well, I haven't seen or heard from you in over 2 months, and I was worried about you after you failed the graduation test last time, the Sandame said, turning to face Naruto. Naruto replied, yeah, I've been training, trying to get stronger so I can pass next time. Hiruzen replied, so you are planning to still continue at the academy? Yeah, why wouldn't I be? Naruto said, his expression bewildered. Hiruzen replied, well, since the academy starts in a few weeks and I hadn't received your admittance form for this year. What form? Said Naruto. I haven't seen any form, he said, his expression bewildered. Hiruzen sighed. I see. Well, I happen to have the admittance form here on my desk, so if you want to sign it then I'll fill out the rest for you. Hiruzen asked, what are you doing? As Naruto approached, picked up the form, and started reading it. Naruto replied, sure. Just reading what I'm about to sign, Naruto said, raising his head. It's not a good idea to sign anything until you have read it through and know exactly what it is. Hiruzen replied, that is true, it's why my job is so hard sometimes because I have to read carefully every document that comes across my desk. When Naruto thought, wait, if I tell him about Kage Bunshin, he will want to know how I know that, he blinked and began to speak. I don't want you yet, but I could use the postal ninja excuse and said, why don't you ask for assistance? The amount of paperwork you've done over the years seems like too much for one person to manage. Hiruzen's eyes widened and then narrowed slightly before he said, anyway, as I was saying, the academy starts next week on Monday. True, it is too much for someone to handle, but sadly only the Hokage could. Okay, I'll be there. Is that all, Gigi? Said Naruto. To which Hiruzen replied, yes, that is all, good luck, Naruto. Hiruzen thought, you really did give me a great idea, Naruto, as Naruto nodded and walked away. After leaving the office, Naruto hurried to the woods where he trains and grabbed some Ichiruka ramen. After catching the final ball an hour later, Naruto exclaimed, yes, I did it. After that, Naruto took out the scroll, opened the subsequent one, and read. Congratulations. You are now competent enough to attend most hidden villages as a second-year student. As a result, you should start considering dressing more like an Uzumaki. The Uzumaki clan wore a vest to hold scrolls, sealing items, and other items. It was light blue, not bright blue, and it had a spiral inside the middle. This spiral is the Uzumaki clan symbol, and it should be displayed on all of your clothing, but since Konoha uses it on most of theirs, I would have included a picture of a new symbol that better depicts the Uzumaki clan symbol. It is still a spiral, but it has 4 large circles, one on the top, one on the bottom, one on the left, and one on the right that are still connected to the spiral's outer line. For those who are familiar with sealing, this is a sealing symbol. Naturally, you're wondering how I could afford new clothes. $10,000 is sealed at the bottom of this scroll, along with a receipt proving the money was used to return a wallet that a man dropped. In case anyone has any doubts about the man, he was shorter, had tan skin, gray hair, a scar on his left cheek, and neither hand has a pinky finger. Let's move on to the lessons and forget about the clothes. This scroll contains a number of additional books for your reading pleasure. You had to prevent all of the balls from turning white for reflex training on the last tier. For this tier, you have to learn to dodge the balls before they all turn black. I won't say it again, but you have to go and reduce the color once per tier until you can dodge every ball without getting hit once. The same is true for your physical training. I have included adjustable weights with 5-pound bars so you can add 5 pounds each time you complete the running exercise in less than 4 minutes. 5 times without exceeding the 4-minute time limit, one of those times while performing hand signs. Continue doing them, but try to add an extra set each time you add 5 pounds of weight. You will run out of weights once you have reached 50-pound weights on your chest, arm, and leg weights each. I believe it is best to never go over double your normal weight total. I assumed you weigh 125 pounds, so once you reach 50-pound weights on everything, that will be 250 pounds. Continue practicing punching and kicking in addition to weight training. This will help you better adapt to the weights and improve the power and speed of your punches and kicks. Start sparring with your Kage Bunshin, create them without your weights, and then put them on so that you will be slower than they are. Fight 5 of them at first, then 10, 15, 20, and finally 25. You must be able to dodge or block each of their attacks. If you are hit and you don't block or dodge, it counts against you. Grazing hits also count as hits, so make sure it was a clean hit or block. You should also practice throwing and using weapons. Shuriken, kunai, and senbons are good starting points when using your Kage Bunshin. Target specific areas, such as the legs and only the legs, arms, or head. This will help you learn how to use your Kage Bunshin both offensively and defensively. If they manage to hit you while you are using weapons against them, you will lose and have to start over. When you are able to kill 20 Kage Bunshin with taijutsu or weapons, the Kage Bunshin will be permitted to use the replacement and Bunshin and Kage Bunshin against you, which will help you more than you realize. You should also learn to practice your other jutsu, such as those taught in the academy. We just need to talk about your chakra control now. The chakra string instructions are included below. This will be the most difficult exercise you have ever done, but it will also be your greatest advantage later, because when you begin practicing weapons and your Kage Bunshin begins using jutsu while you are not allowed to, you will be missing and wasting weapons until you run out of them. In a real battle, you cannot have the enemy stop so you can grab more weapons. They will come in and kill you. However, if you learn to use the chakra strings, you can learn to move them as you throw them, as well as how to pick them up off the ground and attack the enemy from behind if you become proficient. You will have nothing to do for the next 10 days but read books, so you can have your cage bun shin done at your apartment and then practice your chakra control exercises. When a leaf gets too easy, you can move it up to a small rock, then a shuriken, then a kunai, then a senbon, and Thena I don't know. Learn to control heavier and bigger things. Every bit of chakra control you can get will help you. In addition to kunai, shurikens, and senbons, you may want to consider acquiring a close-range weapon. Ask the Hokage about learning a taijutsu style outside of the academy style. I'm not sure which one would be best for you, but learning a style is also beneficial. You will be strong enough to begin learning chakra manipulation once you have completed all 5 tiers, which will take up the majority of your time until you leave the academy. I wish you luck. Before resealing the books, Naruto thought, well, I'll let my clones practice the rest of the day on chakra control. He grinned and said, thanks Kus. He then opened the instruction on the chakra strings and thought, damn, this is going to take a while. He opened the books and discovered they were simply more advanced books on the same subjects from the previous time. He made 200 cage bun shin, divided them into groups, and had them begin practicing chakra control on the Academy 3, which shocked Naruto by making some of his bunshin appear normal. I'll go get my clothes today, he said. Upon returning to town, Naruto entered a store and the man behind the counter yelled, get out. With a scowl, Naruto uttered, but the individual replied, look, I have the right to refuse service to anyone I want and I refuse service to you, now get out. As he turned to go, Naruto thought, asshole. 2 hours later, Naruto was thinking, stupid, goddamn, motherfucking, son of a bitches, cocksucking, assholes who should burn in hell. As he walked down the street with his hands in fists and blood oozing from them. Without Naruto's knowledge, he was releasing ki, which made everyone frightened of him, retreated from him, or stood motionless as he passed by. When Team 9 returned to Konoha, they saw this sight. When Guy noticed the blood gushing from Naruto's fist, he scowled and said, team, please stay here a moment. He then approached Naruto and greeted him, attempting to get his attention by stroking his shoulder. Naruto didn't hear Guy because he was so engrossed in his mental tirade, but he did pause and blink when he felt Guy's hand. As he started to run, Naruto looked up, blinked, and yelled, ah, face-eating caterpillars. Neji's lip twitched, Tenten covered her mouth to contain her laughter, and Lee remarked, that is unyouthful. Come team, Guy said with a frown, we must see what is bothering that youthful young man. Naruto thought, shit, what the hell? As he turned to look behind him and saw Guy pursuing him, I was going about my own business when he screamed, Ino look out, and his eyes widened. Prior to being pushed aside, Ino was putting some flowers in a window box flower planter in front of a 3-story apartment building when she heard someone yell, Ino look out. Unaware of what was happening, Ino screamed in shock and collapsed to the ground. When the window box from one of the higher windows fell where she used to be, Ino's eyes widened and she screamed, Dad. She saw Naruto on the ground with blood streaming from his head, where the window box had come loose from the building. Upon exiting the building, Inoichi's eyes widened and he hurried over to Naruto's body before asking, what happened to Naruto, Ino? When the team Guy arrived, they saw this sight. How is he, Inoichi? Guy asked as she hurried to stand next to Inoichi. I'm not sure, he has a head injury, Inoichi said. He must be taken to the hospital. When he woke up, Naruto was in a long, dark tunnel and thought, what the hell, where am I? He looked around in confusion as the world around him began to shimmer. Then he blinked as a light appeared and grew larger and larger until the Yondaime Hokage's enormous face appeared alive. In horror, Naruto thought, ah, what the hell? Then, a woman with red hair entered Naruto's vision, and he thought, holy shit, this is my birth, that's my mother. After being handed to a woman he recognized from a picture on the Sandame's desk as the Sandame's wife, Naruto watched as she was killed and he was taken hostage. He was then saved while his mother was being taken away, and after being put somewhere safe, Minato returned and brought him to where his mother was. After hearing their words, he saw the Sandame arrive before the Kyuubi was sealed inside him. The world around Naruto changed, and then everything turned black. Naruto blinked when he woke up later, in a hospital bed, and scowled, thinking, what happened? That was a memory, one of my first memories, a flower. Huh? Who gave that to me? Oh, I was hit in the head after pushing Ino aside. He grinned a little when he noticed a flower in a vase next to his bed and said, I suppose she gave it to me. When the room's door opened, a nurse scowled, said, you awake, leave now, and slammed the door shut. Naruto's positive attitude was ruined, and he scowled and thought, bitch. They didn't even put me in a hospital gown that did it. Naruto thought as he hurried out of bed and discovered that he was wearing blood-stained clothes as he was leaving the hospital. He said, "I'm tired of this shit." Naruto thought, "I'm sick of this shit." After he left the hospital, Akatsuki will come after me if I leave. Additionally, I need to strengthen myself, so I will do that. I'll leave once I'm strong enough to defend myself. But I'm not putting up with this crap any longer. I wonder. After examining the summoning seals on the black stone for an hour, Naruto used his understanding of seals from the books to think. That is the part that regulates the time. That's the distance limit seal. That's the power limit. I could do this. After examining the altered seal he had just created using the summoning seal for 3 hours, Naruto thought, "Okay, my handwriting looks terrible. Now that I know it's terrible, I must practice it if I want to respect my family, but that will have to wait. My last scroll was this one to get some supplies, food, and clothing. I need to travel to another village. I suppose I could make a cage bunshin and keep it in my apartment to call me back, but how do I do that? If Konoha doesn't want my money, someone else will. I'll sneak out tonight." When Naruto saw the village gates the following morning, he thought, "Okay, I hate that village. I've said it before, sneaking out of the village was a breeze. Fortunately, it's only 10 miles to the next village." When Naruto's stomach rumbled upon arriving in the village, he thought, "Let's see if I can't find something to eat." When Naruto spotted a small restaurant, he went inside and sat down at a table. A waitress then approached and asked, "Hello young man, are you waiting on someone?" Naruto replied, "No, I just came to town to do some shopping and thought I would get some breakfast." "Well, you've come to the right place," the waitress said. "Our specials include a sampler platter that includes 1 bacon, 1 sasuage, 1 egg, 1 piece of toast, and a bowl of rice for $5.50, or biscuit and gravy for $1.50. In response, Naruto stated, "I'll try the sampler with a glass of water." Naruto blinked and looked to his right when a woman with brown hair in buns on her head, wearing a Chinese-style shirt and brown shorts, said, "Make that 2 separate tickets though." After seeing the Konoha Hiat, Naruto scowled, and the girl remarked, "I'm surprised to see you here after your head injury, Naruto." In a composed tone, Naruto questioned, "Do I know you?" "No, the name's Tenten. My sensei was the eyebrow monster that scared you before you got hurt. How are you?" The girl who had taken a seat across from him said. With a neutral tone, Naruto said, "Fine, how do you know my name?" Tenten said, "After you saved the girl, I heard the 2 Yamanakas call you Naruto to see you up and all the way here in just 2 days surprises me." Naruto grinned and remarked, "What can I say, I heal fast." "According to Tenten, you don't like me, do you?" "According to Naruto, it's not you," Tenten responded. "Then what is it about me that makes you seem like a jerk?" With a blink, Naruto asked, "Am I?" Tenten looked at him and replied, "Yes. As soon as you saw me you lost your smile and cheerfulness, you became guarded and now act like you want to get as far away from me as you can." "What are you doing here?" Scowled Naruto. Tenten stated, "I'm returning from a mission with my team. We made the decision to spend the night here, and I was getting breakfast before we left when I decided to check in with you. I made a mistake," she said, seemingly offended. Naruto let out a sigh. "I'm sorry, it's not you. I just got some personal issues dealing with something right now, and when I saw your Hiat it reminded me about what I was trying to forget for the moment." Tenten commented, "Want to talk about it?" The waitress returned at that moment with the food, put it down, and said, "Enjoy." "What would you do if you found out your entire life was a lie?" Naruto asked himself after she left. "That you discover that the people you believed you could trust have been deceiving and taking advantage of you." Tenten remarked, "Well, I suppose I would learn the truth, then figure out why they lied, and then make a decision. Additionally, you could disregard those who have deceived you and look for someone you can trust." With a mocking snort, Naruto remarked, "You make it sound easy." Tenten said scoldingly, "It is easy. You're naive," Naruto said defensively. "Hey, I am not naive," Tenten said. "You're a complete moron. If not, why would you wear orange?" Naruto scowled, picked up his plate, and started eating right away. When Tenten saw this, he scowled and apologized for any offense he may have caused. After finishing his plate, Naruto hurriedly took out some cash, tossed it on the table, and turned to go, saying, "I would expect nothing else from a Konoha citizen or ninja." Tenten scowled, tossed some cash onto the table without even touching her food, and hurried after Naruto, saying, "What the hell that's supposed to mean?" When she reached him, Naruto turned and began to leave, saying, "Just leave me alone. Your team's probably waiting for you." Tenten started walking next to him, and Naruto scowled as he looked around and noticed an ally between 2 buildings that allowed for walking between roads. He approached the ally and, when they were halfway down, he turned, startling Tenten by grabbing her arms and gritting his teeth and asking, "What do you want?" Shocked and surprised, Tenten said, I wanted to know what you were so mad about. You seem to despise Konoha or something. I'd like to know why. You want to know why I am angry? Said Naruto as he leapt up onto the wall and up onto the roof. He said, you want to know why I hate Konoha? You want to know the truth? You can't handle the truth, so go fuck yourself, Buns. As Tenten's face flushed, she glared at the roof and thought, nobody grabs me like that or talks to me like that. Who the hell do you think you are talking to me like that? She exclaimed as she hurried to the roof and saw Naruto as he landed on the next ally. She landed directly in front of him. Rolling his eyes, Naruto uttered, God damn it, Shikamaru was right, women are troublesome. Shikamaru sneezed in Konoha. Look, I tried to be nice, I tried to be blunt, but you don't seem to get the message. Naruto bellowed at Tenten. You and everyone else from that shithole of a village called Konoha should leave me alone. Leave my face now, or else. Or else what? Tenten said with a sneer. You're just a weak, pitiful dead last college student who can't even graduate, and I'm a ninja. I will never again tolerate her or anyone else's shit. Naruto thought you want some. Come get some, bitch. He made a cage bun shin without using any hand signals, and when Tenten heard it arrive, she leapt. However, as she did, the cage bun shin, who was about to give her twin chops to the shoulders to hit the pressure points he had read about, instead struck both of her ass cheeks from her leaping up, sending her flying into a trash can behind the real Naruto because of the force of the slaps. Tenten screamed, I'm going to kill you, as she let out some ki, her face turning red from being covered in trash. While the real one screamed, catch me if you can, Buns. As he ran out of the ally, the cage bunshin assumed a defensive stance and, as he rounded the corner, created another cage bunshin. Meanwhile, the real one hanged into his mother and entered a store, while the cage bunshin ran slowly down the street. Before she fled after Naruto, Tenten, who had emerged from the trash, threw a kunai at the clone, who ducked but was struck by the 5 others she threw, dispelling it. She screamed, "Die!" as she saw him and started to run. When Tenten heard her scream, the cage bun shin fled as quickly as it could, heading into the woods and out of the village. When the real Naruto saw this, he laughed and said, who's the idiot now, bitch? He then left the store, turned back into an ally, let go of the henge, and entered a clothes store he had seen across the street. Ah, welcome to Shimmer's Clothing, said a 5 feet 6 inches adolescent girl with green eyes and brown hair who was standing behind the counter as he entered. How may I assist you, sir? I'm looking for some clothes. Naruto said. You wouldn't be wearing shinobi gear, would you? Yes, we do, the girl said. Are you a shinobi? Naruto replied, no, not yet. I just do a lot of activities and wear cloths out quickly, miss. According to the girl, my name is Aki. It's good to meet you, Naruto said. Would you be able to assist me in finding some clothing? His expression was one of disgust. The last place I had to get clothes had nothing that would withstand any hard labor other than this thing, so I only got it for lack of options. Aki replied, well, you come to the right place, though I think that most of our cloths will have to be customized for you since we don't get very many people your height. Yeah, I catch a lot of grief over my height, Naruto said with a laugh. Will you be able to assist me, then? Aki replied, sure. How much clothing are you looking to get? According to Naruto, an entire wardrobe. After widening his eyes and locking the door, Aki said, well, I want to show you that you made the right choice choosing my humble store for your service, so I will give you my full attention, Naruto-sama. This caused Naruto to raise an eyebrow. Just Naruto, please, Aki-chan, Naruto said. Formality bothers me. People believe they should be respected because of some ridiculous title, even though they haven't done anything to merit it. Aki laughed and replied, well, if you're going to call me Chan, then how about I call you Naruto-kun then? I am in your hands, Aki-chan. Naruto smiled kindly. As they entered the back room, Aki blushed a little and said, then please follow me to the back. When you said entire wardrobe, I mean I want new everything. Naruto uttered. I've made the decision that it's time to start over in life, and I thought that improving my appearance would be the ideal place to start. Okay, Aki replied, I suppose the best way to begin would be to take your measurements and begin with what's underneath first. For example, if you were to walk into the center of the strip and down to your underwear, I could take your measurements and we could begin with your underwear briefs or boxers. I'm not sure. Can I be honest with you, Aki-chan? Naruto said, biting his lip as he undressed. After grabbing a tailor tape, Aki turned and replied, sure. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but until a few months ago, I was just another impoverished orphan who had not been adopted and was subsisting on the meager orphan allowance that the village where I lived provided to those who were too old to be adopted, Naruto said. My clothing was all I had left over after covering my rent, groceries, and supplies. Other than buying items that will withstand a lot of wear and tear because I couldn't afford to buy many, I don't really know anything about clothing. Usually, I would go a day or two without eating if I did, but lately, that has changed. I had no idea about my family or anything, but I recently received some information about my mother and her family, as well as what could be considered an inheritance. Although they are now virtually extinct, my family was originally a clan from another nation. My clan's future and fate are essentially up to me, according to the scroll I received. Even though my family and clan are all dead, I want to do everything in my power to make them proud. My clan's colors were gray, black, and blue, but the blue isn't particularly bright, or rather, it's more of a dull shade. If that makes sense. I'm not very knowledgeable about fashion or clothing. All I know about clothing is that I wanted to honor my family by looking nice and lasting as long as possible. I'll rely on your professional expertise to assist me in doing so. After giving Naruto a quick glance and inhaling deeply, Aki remarked, I see they say in the apparel industry that clothes make the man. People can tell who you are by what you wear. You are judged as successful or unsuccessful based on how you conduct yourself as well as how you appear to other people. If two individuals with similar qualifications applied for a job, the employer would select the applicant who dressed more appropriately for the position. Do you think that makes sense? Naruto nods, and Aki responds, all right, then let's know what you're going to do before we start getting you clothes. You mentioned belonging to a clan. Are you interested in representing yourself as a civilian or as a clan? A good first step in honoring your clan is to wear your clan colors. But what does your clan stand for, or what do you want your clan to stand for? Which abilities and strengths would you like to represent both yourself and your clan? Does your clan have a particular symbol or connection? What is the activity of your clan? After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, well, my clan's symbol was a whirlpool spiral, but I would like to modify it a little so that it has a dot in each of the four directions in north, south, east, and west. Although I've only recently begun learning about seals, my clan was well known for its sealing skills. I'm not sure about affinity, but I guess water. Originally, my clan came from an island nation. After grabbing a pencil and a notebook and quickly starting to draw on it, Aki nodded and said, Then she asked, so what are your plans for the future of your clan? What are your clan's plans? I don't know. Naruto, wearing a pair of frog boxers, bit his lip and inquired, what do other clans actually do? He pinched the bridge of his nose and put his palm to his head, saying, damn it, I must sound like an idiot. Aki laughed at this and replied, a little, but you have a reason for not knowing. Well, I guess I could tell you what I know. Hearing about clans from Konoha. The Aburame clan is a clan of bug users and are actually known for their silk. They produce the Akamichi, are among the best cooks in the world. The Yamanaka raise and sell plants, herbs, and other plants that are used for poison and healing salves. That's all I can think of. Sorry. With a sheepish expression. No, Naruto replied, that's okay. He looked down thoughtfully and said, you helped me more than you know. So each clan has a certain skill that they are known for outside of combat. As Aki put it, I guess I'm not that helpful. No, Naruto said, glancing at her, you've been incredibly helpful. I guess I'm ignorant of a lot of things, and I'm not sure what skills I could call my own. Aki cut him off, saying, well, what do you do? How are you going to sustain yourself? After all, you can't live your entire life off of your inheritance, can you? Naruto replied, no, I guess I'll be a ninja. My family was. Aki replied, well, there's nothing wrong with that. You trust me, right? Sure. Naruto replied, I told you I'm in your hands. Then I think I know what to do with you, though it will take a while, Aki said with a smile. Naruto replied, well, I've got nothing better to do, so I'm all yours. Well, then, let me get to work. Why don't you tell me about yourself? Aki asked. Things you enjoy or don't like, as well as things you do for husbands. Why? Inquired Naruto. Aki replied, well, because this is going to take hours and you're going to get bored as hell waiting for me to get done, so I thought if you told me about yourself we could talk and get to know each other, and that will help pass time. Well, alright, I guess, said Naruto as he started to describe himself, focusing mostly on his tricks and a few pleasant memories. 4 hours later, Aki was holding a needle and thread in her hand, with the tailor tape in her mouth. When Naruto's stomach rumbled, Aki laughed and remarked, sounds like the beast is hungry. Naruto was standing where he had been for the previous 4 hours, covered in pieces of various cloths. After a brief period of paleness, Naruto said, are you hungry too? And concluded, no, she doesn't know, she's just joking about my stomach. When a cage bun Shin appeared wearing everyday clothes, Aki looked up and remarked, yeah, a little, though I can't quit it. Whoa, how did you do that? I learned this jutsu from my clan scroll. Naruto stated. It's a reliable clone. Simply tell him what you want, and he will get it for you, my treat. Aki replied, well, thank you. Does it matter where at? No, but I'm not from here. Naruto remarked, I have only eaten breakfast at the small eatery on the east side of town. Oh, the Azumi place, that's a good place, Aki said. Well, if you're certain you don't mind. She chuckled as Naruto looked at her and said, all right, I'll get a glass of tea and a chicken salad from Azumi place. Naruto replied, take some money and get something I would like. With a nod, the Cage Bunshin takes some cash out of Naruto's wallet and walks away. The Cage Bunshin's departure prompted Aki to remark, you know, you have a lot to learn about women, Naruto-kun. According to Naruto, really like what? Aki replied, well, for starters, women can be just as mischievous and devious as you can, Mr. Prankster. Oh, Naruto remarked, are we speaking from experience? He grinned at her and said, do tell. After blushing, Aki started telling him some stories. As the day went on, Aki and Naruto joked and laughed together, getting to know one another while she was making his clothes. There we go, Aki said as she trimmed the final thread on a shirt. Finally, everything is finished. She gave him a sorrowful smile. I want to thank you for everything you've done for me today, Aki. You don't know how much I will treasure this day, Naruto said, his smile fading slightly. Glancing to the wall-sized mirror behind Naruto, Aki said with a smile, well, first tell me what you think. Naruto turned to face the mirror. After noticing that he was wearing gray pants with two black and black stripes and a blue strap, Naruto started to spiral around each leg separately, starting with gray, then black, then gray, then blue, then gray, then black, then gray on each leg. In addition to a black jacket with a blue spiral with gray points and reverse spirals at the 4 compass points, he was wearing a shirt that was primarily gray with off blue around the bottom and the ends of the sleeves. With a grin, Naruto thought, I look badass. I'm glad you like it, Aki said, observing Naruto's expression. If you truly want to repay me for today, how about going out to eat with me so you can show off your new clothes and tell everyone I made them, then come back and eat with me? I'll tidy up while you're away. I live directly upstairs, and I'll give you the key to the front door if I'm done before you return. Please let me know if I should change that outfit in any way. If not, I can create 5 more outfits in the same style, but I'll switch up the colors. Since this one is primary gray, I'll create another one that is similar, then 2 that are primary black and 2 that are primary blue, all while adjusting the colors appropriately. You think that sounds good? Naruto replied, sure, that sound real good. What would you like to eat? Aki remarked, astonish me. Let's see how well you listened. You know a lot about me, she said, grinning. Naruto bowed slightly and said, I would be honored. After laughing, Aki produced a key and gave it to him. Naruto then said, be back shortly, and departed. Aki hurried up to her apartment after Naruto left, grabbing the notebook containing the necessary measurements and starting to move around the area where she had been tailoring Naruto. 30 minutes later, Naruto knocked on the door after ascending the stairs to Aki's living room. When he did, Aki opened the door, and Naruto's eyes widened a little when he noticed that she had changed her clothes, applied makeup, and styled her hair. With a flush, Naruto exclaimed, Aki-chan, you look so beautiful. As she moved aside, Aki said, thank you, Naruto-kun, won't you come in? After nodding, Naruto entered and remarked, nice place, after surveying the area. Thank you, said Aki. She picked up the takeout plates and walked over to the table, saying, here, let me take those. When Naruto pulled out the chair for her, recalling Aki's stories, she grinned, sat down, and said, thank you. You're welcome, said Naruto. Yes, Aki replied, Naruto-kun. Then Naruto said, what, I thought it would be nice to have dinner with you because I'm tired of being alone. Aki sighed. The woman blushed. I think you're a pretty handsome young man and I thought it would be nice to think of it as a date. And I'm nothing special, Aki-chan, but you're a very lovely and kind woman, and any guy would be honored and fortunate to go on a date with you, including me, Naruto said after swallowing and turning to face Aki. Aki blushed and lowered her head as her eyes widened and a tear dropped from the corner of her eye. Thank you, shall we? As they started to eat the onigiri and sushi, Naruto replied, sure. After they were done, Aki tossed the plates aside and returned to the room, approaching Naruto from behind and putting her arms around him while whispering, thank you for a lovely evening, but the night's still young. Naruto appeared perplexed as Aki took his hand tenderly and uttered the sultry words, come. Naruto stood up and trailed behind Aki. It took a moment for Naruto to recall the events of the previous day after waking up the following morning with a weight on his chest and a tangle of brown hair on top of it. You right, Aki-chan. Women can be even more deceptive and mischievous than any man, he thought. Aki woke up 30 minutes later, shifted her head, and moaned, morning, in a weary tone. Morning, Aki-chan, Naruto said, glancing at the spot where he had observed her sleeping. Aki smirked as she sat up and back, pushing herself over Naruto's body and remarking, "Looks like the beast is awake also." The beast also greeted Aki, and Naruto moaned. Naruto was in the shower after doing some morning stretches when he bit his lip and thought, "Damn, I wish I could stay here with her maybe." Naruto, dressed in his new clothes, entered the living room and smelled breakfast. Aki, carrying 2 plates from the kitchen, smiled, placed them on the table, then walked over to put her arms around Naruto's shoulders and give him a passionate kiss. Aki groaned as well as Naruto groaned as he drew her in closer. Following their kiss, Aki declared, "Breakfast is ready." As they started eating, Naruto blushed and remarked, "I enjoyed spending time with you, Aki." Naruto nodded and sat down at the table. In a disgusted tone, Aki said, "And I enjoyed spending time with you as well, Naruto-kun. It's way better than my time with my husband." Choking on his eggs, Naruto spit out the word, "husband." "Let me explain please." Aki sighed. 3 years ago, my parents forced me into an arranged marriage with a wealthy businessman named Gato, who owns the Gato Shipping Company, Aki said, while Naruto scowled and nodded. "Our family owned this shop for almost 50 years, but the Gato company took over all of our supplies, raised prices on everything, and imposed new taxes on goods. Before long, we were too indebted to continue operating and faced the possibility of losing both our home and business. The Gato men arrived and threatened to seize everything and enslave us, but my parents made a deal with him. I don't know all the specifics, but I do know that neither of them ever came back, and I received a scroll stating that I was Gato's wife. Even though I have never met him, every month I have to deposit $2,000 into a bank account. If I don't, someone will break into the downstairs store and cause damage." With a scowl, Naruto asked, "What happened to your parents?" "I don't know, I think they're dead or slaves," Aki sighed. "I don't want you to be hurt, Aki," Naruto said, casting a downward glance. "I now consider you to be important. I care about you, but I've never felt this way before, so I'm not sure if I love you or not." "I know, and I care about you as well," Aki said with a smile. "Since my parents left, I have never been happier than I am now, spending time with you." "You cannot remain here," Naruto said, biting his lip. "It's not secure." Blinking, Aki uttered the words, "What? I won't let you get hurt," Naruto declared. "Gato and his men shouldn't get their dirty hands on you. I'll keep you safe, Aki." "But," Aki said, putting her hand to her chest and blushing. "No, I won't allow anything to happen to you," Naruto said, shaking his head. "No one I care about will be lost, Aki," he said with a strong tone. "I'll die to protect you." "I can't, I have nowhere to go. My entire life is wrapped around this shop," Aki said, casting a downward glance. "You told me about your clan and how you wish to honor it in your family, and it's my home, history, and legacy. I want to honor mine in the same manner, though." "But Gato owns it," Naruto said, closing his eyes as tears began to well up. "You've lost it already. Things and buildings can be easily replaced, and you can start over somewhere else. But lives can be replaced in the same way if you pass away. Your history, legacy, and parents' legacy are all lost. Please, please, come with me. I'll let you live with me. I'll take care of you, make you my wife, and provide you with everything you could possibly need or desire." Aki said, "Naruto-kun, thank you," with a smile. With optimism, Naruto uttered, "So you agree?" "Yes, but I have to wait a few days before I can start a new life somewhere else," Aki said. "I have to gather my belongings, settle all of my debts, complete the remaining orders for my clients, and bid my friends farewell." "How much do you need, Aki?" "I'll help you pay for everything," Naruto said, taking out his wallet. Aki bit her lip and uttered, "Oh, I'm not sure." Naruto handed her $7,000 and said, "Well, here, if you need more then let me know." Aki said, but, as her eyes widened, "No," Naruto replied, "I'm going to fulfill my promise to look after you. I follow Naruto Uzumaki's ninja rule of never breaking his word." After softening his gaze, Aki said, "Then make me a promise." As Naruto put it, "Anything, Aki-chan," Aki said, "no matter how difficult life gets or what challenges you face, you will live a long and happy life that you will demonstrate to the world the Uzumaki clan's honor and greatness." With a grin, Naruto said, "I promise," Aki replied. "Good, then I guess this is where we part ways then." Naruto said, What do you mean?" as his smile dimmed and he blinked. "Well, I have things I have to do that will take a few days, and you will have to get things ready for the future where you live, right?" Aki said hastily after giving it some thought. As Naruto put it, Yeah, I guess you're right." "Of course I am," Aki said. "Why don't we decide to get together again here on Saturday of next week? After I give you the key, you can enter, and I'll spend the week preparing and packing. How does that sound?" "Beautiful and intelligent," said Naruto. "I'm happy to have met you, Aki-chan. To make moving easier, I'll even get a few scrolls to seal your belongings in. How does that sound? That sounds fantastic, said a blushing Aki. I'll clean up here before I begin my tasks, so why don't you go ahead and get ready? Are you sure you don't need any help? Asked Naruto. Believe me, Naruto-kun, Aki said. All right, said Naruto. In a week, I'll see you. As he stood up and kissed her, he created a cage bun shin that dispelled it. A few moments later, Naruto scowled as he recalled the cage bun shin in Konoha activating the scroll before it was destroyed due to a malfunctioning scroll. Goodbye, Aki-chan. He gave Aki a final smile before heading out, sighing and thinking, looks like I'll have to work on that. Aki went to the window and watched him go, and when he was gone, she stopped smiling. I can't remember my life ever being better than it is now. Oh crap, Aki doesn't know about Kyuubi. Will she hate me? Shit, what about the villagers? Will they hurt her to hurt me? What am I going to do? Naruto slowed down and started to reflect as he considered everything that had happened thus far. It was nighttime when Naruto saw the village's walls and thought, well, here we go. However, as soon as he got close to the walls, a group of Anbu surrounded him. Naruto Uzumaki, you are to come with us to the Hokage office immediately, said an Anbu wearing an Inu mask as Naruto scowled. In a neutral tone, Naruto scowled and said, fine. After Inu approached and touched Naruto's shoulder, both of them vanished in a whirlpool of leaves. Naruto was in the Hokage office the next instant. When they got there, the Sandaime Hokage was gazing out the window of his office at the village and said, "Ah Inu, I see you found him. Where had he gone?" According to Inu, my squad caught him just outside the village walls heading back toward the village. According to the Sandaime, I see you're dismissed. Inu. Hello Naruto, how are you? Said the Sandaime, who was observing Naruto and his clothes, as Inu nodded and shushed away. As Naruto put it, a little tired, Hiruzen Sarutobi responded, yes, I was surprised to hear that you were in Sacho, especially after sneaking out of the hospital. Sneak out, Naruto said, blinking. The nurse opened the door, saw that I was awake, and never even came into the room. From the door frame she yelled, "You're awake. Get out now," and yelled the final word at me. She appeared upset that I was also awake. Hiruzen replied, "You wouldn't happen to know what her name was, do you?" As he was covered in smoke, Naruto remarked, "No, but I can henge into her, though I don't see why you care." As the smoke cleared, Naruto was hanged into. The nurse who had instructed him to leave the Sandaime recalled the nurse as Naruto let go of the henge, yawning and saying, "Well, if that's all, I'm going to bed." He then turned and headed for the door. "But we're not done talking," Hiruzen said. "You left the village, but why? Is it important why I left?" Naruto paused. "I went out according to you and the council. I am a civilian and an adult. It's up to me if I choose to go and never return. Nothing connects me to the village." As Hiruzen put it, "But what about your friends?" "What friends?" snorted Naruto. "Name one." Hiruzen replied, Well, I don't know. I have so many things to remember as Hokage. It's hard for me to remember your friend's name you told me about, but I do know that you have some like Tuchi and Ayame Ichiruka." Reaching for the door handle, Naruto remarked, "Well, it's nice talking to you, but as you mentioned, you're busy being the Hokage, so I will go." "You're not leaving until I tell you that you can," Hiruzen said. "Why not?" said Naruto with a frown. "I'm not your ninja to give orders to." After scowling and taking a moment to gather his thoughts, Hiruzen remarked, "You attacked one of my ninja." With a blink, Naruto said, "No, I didn't. According to Hiruzen, you attacked a genin named Tenten. Maybe you should get all your facts straight before you make an accusation." "Hokage-sama," Naruto said, his expression shifting from one of confusion to one of neutrality. "You're wrong about this. Just as you were wrong about me leaving the hospital in secret. I made multiple attempts to leave and avoid her, but she wouldn't let me go, so I was forced to defend myself." With a frown, Hiruzen asked, "Why were you in Sacho?" "Well, if you really must know, I can't get food or clothes in this village because, for some reason, everyone seems to despise me," Naruto said. "Laws be damned. Whatever that means, I tried to get things I needed from almost every store in this village, but I was told that they had the right to refuse service or leave before we finished what the Yondaime started." Clocking his fist, Hiruzen thought, "No, they couldn't be doing that, would they? Anyway, as I mentioned, I left to find somewhere I could get clothes because I couldn't get them here. I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed it," Naruto said. "I could get used to the friendly smiles, tasty food, and people not staring at me." He grinned and said, "Perhaps even move there." Hearing this, Hiruzen scowled and said, "This isn't good, but this is your home," he said, adding, "I need to think of something." "No, it's not," snorted Naruto. "A home is a place where friends and family are present and where you feel safe. I don't have any of the three items here." Naruto yawned and said, "Why don't we skip the bullshit? While Hiruzen closed his eyes, I can make you realize how much of the bullshit Konoha did to me was your fault by dancing around about it. I'm keeping things from you. And you're keeping things from me. You have no idea what I know and what I'm concealing. I am aware of things that you are not. He crossed his arms and said, where you want to go from here is up to you. With a firm tone, Hiruzen stated, I think you should remember who you are talking to, Naruto. You know, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is really interesting jutsu, Naruto remarked with its memory transfer feature. You can be in two places at once and be aware of what's going on in each. You lose the only clue as to what actually transpired with your wife on the day I was born, so I'm going pop. When Hiruzen's eyes widened, he said, you're bluffing. You're not familiar with Kage Bunshin Jutsu. The Naruto, who entered the office, smirked and said, now I lost most of my chakra I had, meaning you got less time to talk to me before I go pop and you have to deal with what happens after that. Hiruzen noticed two other Narutos standing there before they vanished in smoke. Why are you hostile toward me after everything I have done for you? Asked Hiruzen, with a frown. It could be because of Kyuubi, Kushina, Minato, Mito Uzumaki Senju, and the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool, or it could be because of Danzo. Or it could be something else entirely, like a group of S-rank missing ninja who want to kill me and use the Kyuubi to destroy Konoha. Or it could be that I've discovered something while I've been away from Konoha that is more important to me than everything in Konoha combined. And I want to protect it. What the renowned professor will do to address this issue is the question. After listening to Naruto, Hiruzen asked, what is it you want or hope to achieve? While pondering, what all does he know? Well, I want to know the truth. Naruto sighed. Everyone I've spoken to has only given me fragments of the whole story, despite the fact that I've been told a lot of shit from a variety of sources. He walked over and looked out the window, saying, I'll tell you flat out, I'm scared to death of the village right now. I met someone I care about and I'm scared that if I bring her to Konoha to be with me that people will hurt her to hurt me. You're the only person I can think who knows the full story, but I doubt you will give me the full story, if any. According to Hiruzen, they won't do that. Naruto turned to face him and remarked, really, how do you sleep at night knowing that my family has been guarding this village since its founding and that, because of you, the so-called innocent people here view me as a demon at worst and a weapon at best? Prior to meeting the girl I honestly considered using all of my chakra, creating hundreds of them using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and attacking every man, woman, and child in the area while causing as much damage as possible before I was eliminated. I might even be able to make one for each person in the village because my Kage Bunshin can make more by using other Kage Bunshin. According to Hiruzen, you would hurt everyone for no reason. No reason, no reason, said Naruto. Perhaps you would see that I have every reason to despise the residents of this village if you took your old, slothful self out of this office and looked around. Observe how they ruined my life. They made me who I am. The villagers are my parents, and I am who and what they made me. If a parent mistreats their child, doesn't the child grow up to hate and resent them and do to others what happened to them? That is exactly what I read in the medical book. I detest my birthday because I spend it in hiding, and while everyone else in the village celebrates, I have to worry about whether I'll live to see another day. Well, let me tell you something. Your wife was killed by having a kunai pushed through her skull, and I was taken as a hostage to separate my mom and dad so that the person who killed her could release the Kyuubi on Konoha and kill me. Fix this issue after you find out who the guy is tomorrow until 1 p.m. I will have a Kage Bunshin henge hiding in the village. You announce the truth about the Uzumaki clan and my parents in a way that will allow me to re-establish my clan, protect my family, and stop living in constant fear of those fools. If you don't, I'll turn myself into the group that wants the Kyuubi, of which the man who killed your wife is a member, and allow them to destroy this fucking town. As he rose in smoke, he said, your choice, Professor. Hiruzen let out the cry. Anbu, Hiruzen declared, I want every Anbu that can find Naruto Uzumaki and bring him to me. As a number of them appeared, go. Hiruzen scowled and asked himself, what am I going to do? After they had left. Where are you, Naruto? Even Kakashi, with his Sharingan, is unable to locate you or your Kage Bunshin, Hiruzen thought as he sighed and rubbed his eyes. At noon the following day, Anbu notify the village that there will be an announcement in front of the tower in 30 minutes. I have no idea what you know, but you have enough hints to worry me. Looks like I will have to go with that idea. After all, too bad I won't live to see how well it goes. Hiruzen thought after the Anbu had left. I suppose I should let the appropriate people know. People of Konoha, I wish you all for coming here today for the announcement I am about to make, the Sandaime Hokage said as he emerged onto a balcony atop the Hokage Tower 30 minutes later. I am sure many of you are wondering what this announcement is about, Hiruzen said after a few whispers in the crowd. This announcement relates to a long-kept secret that dates back to before the village of Konoha was established. For those of you who are wondering why I am sharing this secret now, The reason is that I will soon be leaving my position as your Hokage. Almost everyone in the village widened their eyes at this point, and there were a lot of rumors. Now many of you are wondering who will be the Godem Hokage, and to tell you the truth, I have narrowed that list down to 3 individuals, and I will inform you about all 3 who I am choosing, Hiruzen said after he raised his hand to silence the crowd. I have already notified the Fire Lord of my selections. Hitaki Kakashi is the first person on my list. Kakashi is the son of Konoha Tsukumo Hitaki's White Fang. For those of you who don't know him, he graduated from the academy at age 5, became a Chunin at age 6, and became a Junin at age 13. The only Yondaime Hokage student still alive is Kakashi because he is rumored to have copied more than 1,000 jutsu during his career. Kakashi is also referred to as the copycat ninja. He is a very talented leader who has led more than 1,000 successful missions in his career. Many ninja in Konoha and other villages respect him. What the hell is going on? Why didn't he ask me? Inu thought as she stood on one of the buildings. I bet Kakashi is having a panic attack right now, Hiruzen thought. Now I will tell you about the next candidate for the position of Hokage, Hiruzen said after calming the crowd. The fabled Sanin's Jiraiya oil comes next. Jiraiya became a Chunin at age 9 and a Junin at age 14 after graduating from the academy at age 6. Jiraiya was the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha's teacher and a pupil of mine. Aside from the Shodem Hokage Hashirama Senju, Jiraiya is the only individual in our village's history to achieve the status of a sage other than the Yondaime. He is the only one with the Toad summoning contract throughout his career. He has served our village in more than 1,500 missions and has assisted in defending it during 2 separate shinobi wars. Both our enemies and our allies respect him for his abilities as Konoha's top spymaster in addition to his prowess as a shinobi. Danzo reflected in the crowd, he is also an idiot and a pervert who is not fit to be Hokage. Hiruzen said, now I will tell you the final candidate for the position of Hokage, after waiting until the crowd had subsided once more. Tsunade Senju is the last option. Tsunade is the great-grand-niece of Nidame Hokage Tobaramu Sinu and the granddaughter of Shodem Hokage Hashirama Senju. Tsunade was 6 years old when she graduated from the academy, Chunin was 9, and Junin was 15. Tsunade, a well-known Sanin, was one of my students, just like Jiraiya. She has over 1,200 missions completed for Konoha and has the slug summoning contract. Many of you would be honored to have any of the 3 candidates as the Godem Hokage, but there is something that has been kept secret about 2 of these individuals for years that even they are unaware of. Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya Oil were actually the parents of Minato Namikaze. The Yondaime Hokage of Konoha. Tsunade is regarded as one of the greatest healers in the world and is frequently regarded as the mother of modern medicine. Nearly every eye in the crowd widened at this point, and a bird fell from a building, rising in smoke as it hit the ground. Fortunately, the other birds managed to remain in their current positions. I am sure you are all wondering how that is possible or how neither of them could know of being his parent. The reason they don't know is because of the secret I mentioned that goes back to before the founding of Konoha, Hiruzen said after 10 minutes of silence to quell the rumors. The first major shinobi war was caused by this secret. This is the secret that every Konoha shinobi wears on their head in remembrance of the sacrifices made for our village. It is connected to the Kyuubi attack on our village, has protected it since its founding, and now poses a threat to its destruction. I have killed to keep this secret. After taking a deep breath, Hiruzen stated, to find the secret, you have to go back before Konoha was founded. In fact, the secret dates back to the Six Realm Sage, who founded the ninja world. The Six Realm Sage, as some of you may be aware, was the one who figured out the secret of chakra and how to use it for jutsu. The world was rescued from the most formidable demon, the Jubi, by the sage himself. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the Sandaime, and many of them were wearing shocked and terrified expressions. Hiruzen continued, now I am sure you are wondering why none of you have heard of this Jubi, since you all believe the Kyuubi was the most powerful of the Biju, and as of today you're right for the most part, except the Biju, or in fact pieces of the original Jubi. The Six Realm Sage could not kill the Jubi because it was immortal, but the sage did discover a way to kill it, something that is so simple but also at the same time seems impossible. He killed it through chakra exhaustion. Everyone blinked at this point, and Hiruzen said, I know, sounds crazy, but consider this. Almost everyone in the world is aware that chakra is made up of a combination of mental and physical energy. Therefore, the sage separated the Jubi mental energy and the physical energy into separate locations. He sealed the Jubi chakra into 9 animals and the Jubi body into himself. The 9 animals evolved into what we now know as the Biju. However, the Biju were not what they are today. Once the Jubi chakra was implanted in them, their minds lacked the ability to replicate the Jubi's body. They did, however, possess the ability to heal their own bodies, just like all other living things do. which is what enables everything to develop, as any biology student will tell you. After a moment, Hiruzen said, the sage assigned his most devoted friends and allies to defend the world from the demons because, like any living thing, animals could create their own chakra as long as they had the mental and physical energy. This clan accomplished this by following the sage's example of giving the Biju chakra exhaustion. They sealed the Biju into themselves and drained it of as much chakra as they could throughout their lives until just before they passed away. At that point, they would release the Biju, which would start using the Jubi chakra within it to heal its body quickly. However, before it was fully healed, it would be sealed again into a child of this clan, who would then gradually deplete the Biju of more and more of its chakra from generation to generation until Konoha was established. Hiruzen thought, there you are Naruto, or is that a cage Bunshin? As he blinked and noticed a bird walking on the roof close by. The bird had blue eyes. Hiruzen cleared his throat before speaking. As you have read in the history books of our village, Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju fought each other for the position of leader of this village. What you don't know is that Madara Uchiha wanted an advantage over Hashirama since they were pretty much even in skills and strength. To get this advantage, Madara sought out anything that could give him the edge for victory. In his quest for power, he discovered the clan known as the greatest seal masters in the world. At that time, he kidnapped a female member of this clan and ordered her to create a seal that would aid him in defeating Hashirama. The woman refused and Madara used his Sharingan on her. Unfortunately, in doing so, he learned the truth about her and her clan because at that time she was the current Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Hiruzen said, yes, the clan selected by the Six Realms Sage to defend the world against the Biju was also the greatest seal masters at that time. Madara used his Sharingan on her to control her and force her to fight Hashirama using the Kyuubi power. All of Konoha's eyes widened, and there were mutterings. Since she was innocent in the incident, Hashirama used his Mokuton bloodline to trap her and prevent her from getting hurt. This is how he discovered he could suppress Biju's chakra. The Senju clan was one of the Six Realms Sage's descendants, just like the Hyuga and Uchiha clans were. The eldest son of the sage received the eye bloodline, and the youngest son received the body bloodline. Two sons were born to the oldest son with the Sharingan. One was born, and with the Byakugan, another. At this point, the audience gazed in amazement or shock at the Hyuga and Uchiha clan members. The woman turned around and used the bloodline her clan had acquired from generations of absorbing the Biju chakra to assist Hashirama in defeating Madara after Hashirama suppressed the Kyuubi chakra, according to Hiruzen. The battle between Hashirama and Madara actually went like that, but since the secret was out, the Biju were mentioned. Following the battle, Hashirama and the woman spoke, and the Senju clan and the woman's clan formed an alliance. The Senju clan was curious about the clan's seal knowledge, and the woman's clan was intrigued by the Senju's capacity to suppress the Biju chakra. As a result, the leaf on each heiat in Konoha symbolized the Senju clan, while the spiral stood for the Uzumaki clan. This served as a symbol for the alliance that was formed. The crowd erupted in gasps and shocked expressions as many people started searching for Naruto. In order to complete the agreement between the Senju and Uzumaki clans, the woman who held the Kyuubi, Mito Uzumaki, and Hashirama Senju were married. Hiruzen stated, yes, as many of you are aware, there is an Uzumaki in Konoha. I will give you more information about him in a few minutes because there is more to the story you need to know. Wanting retribution, Madara Uchiha wanted to sever this alliance by telling others about Mito and the Kyuubi and asserting that Konoha had a weapon against them. In order to save us, our new ally of Whirlpool Country, home of the Uzumaki clan, sent the other 8 Uzumaki, who had a Biju sealed in them, to the other factions that were going to destroy Konoha as a peace offering. This was accepted, and the war came to an end. This started the first Great Shinobi War and would have destroyed Konoha. When Madara learned that Mito and Hashirama had a son together, he became enraged and attempted to incite a rebellion by the Uchiha clan. But they rejected him. He then attacked Mito and Hashirama's son, seriously wounding him, preventing him from ever becoming a shinobi. Hashirama pursued him because he wanted retribution, and they engaged in combat and were killed in the Valley of the End. Now, the son Mito and Hashirama had both the Mokuton bloodline and the Uzumaki bloodline called Special Chakra, which is essentially chakra that is 10 times stronger than normal chakra, Hiruzen stated. However, due to his injuries, he was unable to use them. One of the Uzumaki clan members was married to a woman and had 2 children together. The Uzumaki member was in the Land of Lightning and discovered that Kumo was planning to turn his 2 children into weapons. His 2 children were smuggled into Konoha and were given a new name to hide them from Kumo. This was done because they discovered several clans that were unhappy with their homes or their leaders due to the Uzumaki clan members who were sent to other countries as peace offerings. They contacted Mito, who spoke with Tobarama, and he agreed to allow these clans to join Konoha. The Yamanakas were a brother and sister. Kumo killed their father and used the sealing knowledge they gained to seal the biju he had in another person who would be loyal to Kumo, Hiruzen said as Inoichi and Ino's eyes widened. They began the Second Great Shinobi War in order to reclaim the two children they desired as weapons, which led to others wanting their own weapons and imitating Kumo. Before long, everyone was engaged in combat. The sister was married to Hashirama's son in order to protect the two children, and the brother was brought up by Tobiramu as a son and eventually formed his own clan without realizing his relationship to his sister. Ultimately, the Isis gave birth to Tsunade Senju and Nawaki Senju, while Ryu Senju and Yugio Yamanaka gave birth to Ken Yamanaka, the father of Inoichi Yamanaka. After a brief pause, Hiruzen said, "Now that Nawaki Senju and Tobiramu had died in the war, and only Mito and I knew about it, we would have been destroyed if it weren't for Whirlpool, our only ally at the time. I could have tried to break our word and follow other countries' lead and place the Kyuubi in someone else who would be more loyal to our village rather than a single clan, but the Uzumaki clan had done so much and sacrificed for us that I could not break our promise. So when Mito approached me and informed me that her time was running out and a new Jinchuriki was to be made, I asked her what she wanted to do. Mito wanted the Kyuubi to remain under the control of the Uzumaki clan so that it wouldn't be used as weapons like other villages were doing with their biju. I agreed, but the Senju and Uzumaki lines had to be combined to see if there was any way to expedite the process of finally killing the biju because Nawaki had passed away and Tsunade was too old to seal it in. Fortuitously, Tsunade returned from the front lines severely wounded and in a coma. And while in the coma it was discovered that she was pregnant, Hiruzen said with a laugh. I had the baby placed in an orphanage to conceal him after my wife gave birth. Mito arranged for an Uzumaki female to arrive in Konoha who would be the same age as Tsunade's son. I told Mito that Tsunade had a son, but I wouldn't tell her who it was because, even though I would let the Uzumaki clan control the Kyuubi, I also wanted to keep the Kyuubi here to prevent others from attacking us. I then hid Tsunade's son in the orphanage, but not before conducting a blood test to determine the father, and I found that it was Jiraiya, one of my other students. After 8 years, Mito passed away and Kushina Uzumaki was transferred from Whirlpool to Konoha to take over as the Kyuubi's new Jinchuriki. I would have arranged for them to marry, but Iwa, Suna, and Kumo banded together to destroy Whirlpool, and aside from Kushina, the Uzumaki clan was also destroyed. Almost, a few actually survived, but I can understand why you would think, Naruto said as he appeared sitting on the roof after a puff of smoke in the roof's corner caught everyone's attention. As of right now, I am aware of only 2 of us remaining. I'll cut it short because you're getting a little carried away. My mom was the new Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and my dad was the Yondaime. They got married and had me. And an enemy ninja attacked my parents shortly after I was born, killing the Sandame's wife who was present and using me as a hostage. The man then abducted my mom and broke the seal that held Kyuubi back, forcing my dad to save me as he was covered in smoke. Everyone saw a man wearing a spiral mask and a black cloak with red clouds on it. This is how he appeared. I don't know who the guy is, but I know that Danzo does, Naruto said, suffused with smoke. According to the other Uzumaki I mentioned, Root found another Uzumaki besides my mother, raped her, waited until she had a child, then stabbed her and abandoned her for dead because Danzo wanted to use the Kyuubi as a weapon. Sadly, she lived with Danzo. She lived and discovered that you had hired the man in the mask to fight dad and kidnap mom. He was supposed to take mom to the location of Root so they could steal the Kyuubi. But Naruto stopped speaking as a member of Root emerged behind him, stabbed him in the back with a sword, sending blood flying, and then the Root took the sword away and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Hiruzen, seeing this, yelled, Anbu, arrest Danzo for treason and any Root agents you find. Jounins, get Naruto Uzumaki to the hospital and protect him from Root. Go. 3 hours had passed since the announcement and the ensuing commotion. After entering the council chambers, Hiruzen sighed and said, Thank you all for coming after the earlier events. I am sure you all are confused about what has happened and what is going on. It was then that he spoke. Inoichi sarcastically remarked, You think, I don't like your attitude, Inoichi, Hiruzen remarked. Inoichi said in a heated tone, Don't go there, Hokage-sama. If you had not already announced that you were retiring, I would call for a vote of no confidence in you right now for what you have done. The village is on the brink of civil war thanks to you. People are questioning if all bloodlines are from demons. The clans can't trust you since you admitted to interfering with clan business. You've dishonored our allies as well as the fact you let someone who could be considered a prince of this village to live the life of an abused orphan child and used him as a weapon. It's not hard to realize that your speech about the Kyuubi originally being sealed to deter other nations from attacking us now that we know the truth. You could have also helped the people of the village realize the truth about Naruto not being the Kyuubi if you had mentioned about his heritage and their bloodlines that are designed to defeat demons, kidnapping, conspiracy, deception, fraud, theft. My god, you're no better than that bastard Danzo. When the Nidaime selected you as Hokage, was it because you were the lesser of two evils? Hiruzen unleashed his ki and caused everyone to freeze. Enough. I will not have you stand there and judge me for doing what I felt was best to protect Konoha and ensure its survival and prosperity. Yes, I made a lot of decisions that I am not proud of. Some of which could be considered that of a monster, but I had to in order for the people of our village to live and go about their lives. I had to sacrifice my own son and his wife for this village. I have to go home every night and look at my grandson and see him cry himself to sleep wishing he had his parents in his life, and know that it was my orders that sent them to their deaths for this village, so you have no right to judge me. Truth is, had Naruto not threatened to turn himself over to the man who released the Kyuubi on Konoha, I wouldn't have done what I did today. Everyone's eyes widened at this point, and one Koharu exclaimed, he did what? The roof was covered in smoke when Naruto appeared and spoke. You're pretty good at trying to shift the blame, but until last night when I had a cage Bunshin threaten you, you didn't even know what really happened the day I was born. You didn't even know your wife had a kunai shoved through her skull killing her. You were too busy trying to lie so you could use me, like Inoichi said, instead of finding out the truth. But you're really good at pointing fingers and blaming others, like what you did with the Uchiha clan. Everyone's eyes widened a little at this point, and Hiyashi asked, what do you mean? When he held up a journal with the Uchiha clan symbol, Naruto said in a sing-song voice, after my cage Bunshin dispelled last night, he had Embu look for me, but they couldn't find me. While I didn't know everything that we learned today, I knew enough that the Sandaime here was not above letting a clan be destroyed if it was for the good of Konoha. That made me start looking around the area I was hiding last night, the Uchiha district. Guess what I found? Looking at the other elders, Hiruzen uttered, what is that? Naruto replied, Uchiha Itachi's journal. Funny. I never would have guessed that he was more loyal to Konoha than his clan. I wouldn't do that if I was you. You don't know if I am really here or another cage Bunshin, and you don't know if this is a Bunshin copy of the journal or the real one. I could be sitting with Sasuke right now telling him what I found, with a grin. As Koharu, Hamaru, and Hiruzen all went pale, Hiruzen asked, what are you up to, Naruto? Naruto stated, what I want is to be able to live in peace and not have to worry about these people trying to kill me in my sleep. What I want is to be able to be with a woman that I love and not fear the people of this village will hurt her or worse in order to make me suffer. What I want is to be able to restore my clan and not worry about my children turned into mindless weapons with control seals on them like you and those you, Danzo, and those two fossil had done to Itachi. As they turned to face the neutral-faced elders and the Hokage, everyone's eyes widened. Naruto said, but most of all, I want to be able to wake up in the morning, look myself in the mirror and wonder if suicide is better than dealing with the shit this village does to me. For Kami's sake, I was stabbed by a fucking sword and I was told by the nurse, a wound like that won't kill a demon like you, and told to leave the hospital. And not even a week ago, after I saved Ino and got a head injury, another nurse opened the door and said, you're awake, leave. And then there's the fucking stores here. My relative gave me $10,000 to buy me some new cloths and food, and I went into nearly every store in this village and I was told, we don't serve your kind here. Get out before we finish what the Yondaime started, or why don't you just go off and die? I had to go to another village to get these. The only reason I don't fucking leave this village is because I got a group of S-rank missing ninja who want to take the fucking Kyuubi out of me, killing me, and use it against this sorry-ass village, one of which is the man I hanged into earlier to show everyone who was responsible for the Kyuubi attack. But every person I talk to here makes death seem a little better, so why not make you all suffer like I have? You want a demon? I'll fucking make sure you get what you want. After all, in the business world, the customer is always right, so give them what they want, so go fuck yourself. As he crossed his arms, still standing on the roof with chakra. How dare you talk to us like that, you damn demon, you shish, yelled a civilian council member. To the surprise of everyone in the room, including those who went to save the man, Naruto threw a kunai at him as quickly as he could. However, when the kunai was 3 feet away from the man, it was covered in smoke, and Naruto kicked him in the chest, sending him flying backwards. However, Naruto used chakra to stick to the man's chest, flipping his body before releasing him, throwing him into the air. The Naruto grabbed him by his legs and power bombed him into the table, shattering it, causing the man to scream and spit up blood as he arched his back. Naruto looked at the room, seeing all the wide-eyed, shocked looks, as well as the scared looks some had, and he said, the customer is always right, give the man what he wants. You want a demon? I'll give you a demon. I'm not taking shit from any of you again. I'm moving into the Senju clan house as is my birthright, and I expect all property, jutsu, money, seals and scrolls created by or owned by either the Senju clan, Uzumaki clan, my father, and or my grandparents to be turned over to me by the end of the week. As you all had me made an adult before I entered the academy hoping to stop me from becoming a ninja, I am taking the position of clan head of the Senju, Uzumaki, and Namikaze clan with all rights of said position until my grandparents return, at which time I will release control of the Senju clan to my grandparents, but I am not giving up my rights, name, or position given to me by my parents. Failure to do so will result in all the information I found while in the Uchiha district, including info on the real truth about the Hyuga Cloud kidnapping, like how he got into Hinata's room undetected in the first place, the Uchiha massacre, as well as several Black Ops missions like the assassination attempt on a certain feudal lord or money laundering of village funds as well as private funds by people in this room will become public information. Also, any attempt to attack, arrest, hinder, or harm me, my friends, my family, or my allies will result in this info coming out, as even in death I have taken precautions to ensure I give you payback by ensuring this village is destroyed either physically, economically, or through reputation. Naruto, who was on the roof, went up in smoke, and the other Naruto turned and looked at the Hokage and said, "The ball's in your court now, Hokage-sama. It was you and the people in this room who directly responsible for the way my life came out so far. An army is only as good as the man or men leading them. You all either helped in making my life hell or sat back and do nothing, making you just as guilty. A good man is as guilty as an evil man when he sits back and does nothing to stop what he know is wrong and could have stopped it. You all knowed about me. You all knowed about the Kyuubi. You all knowed my father never wanted me to have the life I had to live, and you did nothing to stop it, and in some cases aided in my pain and suffering. You were just as guilty of making me who and what I am now as the rest of the people in this village. You want a demon. A demon can be controlled and stopped. I am not a demon, I am Naruto Uzumaki, the Maelstrom. A storm that is uncontrollable and unpredictable as any force of nature. Now, if you will excuse me, I've got better things to do than waste my time with you, so if you would get dressed in your best cloths, put on your makeup and lipstick on, pucker those lips, bend over and kiss my blonde ass. I'm not your weapon. I'm not your bitch. I'm not your whipping boy. Anyone fucks with me, I'll fuck them right back with interest," as he went up in smoke. Not only did you lie to me about my family, why I am hated, and my birthrights, you also tried to blame me for everything. Naruto opened his eyes in a cave as the memories of the Kagebunshin faded, said, "And I have given up my dream of Hokage. I won't let myself become you. I'll become something better than you." He then closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Hiruzen screamed, "Enoughh," as he unleashed the majority of his ki, causing several members of the civilian council to faint. The clan side was sitting in contemplation while the civilian side was screaming and yelling inside the council room. In Hiruzen's words, "Anbu," upon the arrival of an Anbu team, he ordered, "Take Kido Himoko to the hospital to get treated and have him placed in a secure room and sedated until I say otherwise. Now we will continue this meeting in a dignified manner, and if I so much as hear the word demon once from any of you, I will kill you myself, regardless if you are a civilian or clan head. Do you all understand?" Hiruzen said in a commanding tone after the Anbu left with the injured council member. As everyone slowly nods or simply stares at him, he thought, "Everyone is still pretty much in shock. I can't believe Naruto attacked that man. All right, we can sit here and point fingers all day, but," he said after shaking his head to get those thoughts out of his head. Hiyashi responded, "Before this meeting continues, Hokage-sama, I think you should explain to us what exactly Naruto was talking about the control seal on Itachi, as well as the real truth about the Kumo incident." According to Inoichi, "I agree. According to Sume, as do I. The Hokage and Council had nothing to do with the Cloud incident. All information on that event is under the control of the Hyuga Council. If you have any questions about it, then you should ask them," Hiruzen said, scowling and glancing at Kaharu and Hamaru, who both gave a slight nod but had neutral faces. Hamaru continued, "As for Itachi, Itachi was a member of Anbu who was asked to become a member of Root to spy on Root. A control seal was placed on him to counteract the seal Root have put on them. That is all we can tell you." While several others in the room shared Hiyashi's thought, Hiyashi recalled Naruto's words and thought, "So you are pushing the blame elsewhere just as Naruto said you do, while also using wordplay to distract us. You claim that is all you can tell us. Not if that is all you know. I see it now." The remainder of the meeting was devoted to discussing ways to calm the villagers' fears and restore order to the village. Naruto's topic was put on hold until after order was restored. As Zetsu retreated into the walls, a figure emerged from the council room's walls after the meeting, thinking, "It seems that Konoha is destroying itself. I must inform the others about this." 2 days have passed since the village's announcement, and things were starting to go south. A civil war might have broken out if the Fire Lord himself hadn't arrived today to make the announcement, as there had been some fighting between those who harbored resentment toward one another. Perched atop the Hokage Tower, the Fire Lord stood before the Konoha populace. The dead bodies of the Hyuga clan elders hung from the front of the Hokage Tower. The Lord of Fire said, "People of the Fire Nation, I am the Fire Lord, Kaji Shu. As you can see, I am not in a good mood right now. By the bodies hanging off the building here, I dislike those who conspire against me as well as traitors. These men are guilty of that. Anyone who speaks during my meeting in any way will be immediately arrested and will join these men by being publicly executed. I am not here to listen to you, you are here to listen to me." The individuals below were frightened and Kaji responded, "I see I have your attention. I am here today to settle this argument about bloodlines, demons, and Jinchurikis. Once and for all, bloodlines are not created by demons but by destroying demons. The people who have bloodlines are from clans whose ancestors helped protect our world from the demons of hell by destroying them. Now there are more demons in this world than the Bijus. Those are just the most famous ones. In fact, within 5 miles of this village there are several thousand demons roaming around in our world." Everyone, with the exception of a few ninja, went wide-eyed. Kaji replied, "Didn't know that. Did you? Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death, was created by the Shoden Hokage Hashirama Senju. The trees in that forest were created by him, trapping the demons that live there from escaping by suppressing their powers. Nearly every animal that lives in the Forest of Death is in fact a minor demon, and if it wasn't for the help of bloodlines they would have free reign to march into this village and kill every one of you, and they would be a lot stronger than they are now." Kaji saw the fear on several faces and said, "I'm sure some of you are getting cocky and think you can just walk in and kill them and be done with it. Answer me this then: if it was so easy, don't you think I would have had someone do it already? Every year I pay for 20 missions where 10 teams of Anbu each mission go into that forest and kill everything in there they can find besides the trees. Each time they do, they come back with the bodies of thousands of demons that are used for tools, weapons, medicines, and other things. And each time they return, the number of demons are about the same as the last time they returned there, if not more. There is a type of spider demon that lives there that gives birth to 20 spider demons 4 times a year. By the end of the year, that is several thousand spider demons that are living in that forest, and that is just one species. Can you imagine if they escaped? But as I said, it was thanks to Hashirama Senju that you don't have to worry about that. A man with a bloodline protected you, and that is only one man. Think about the other bloodlines here in Konoha. The Yamanaka, who use their bloodline to gather information from enemies to protect you. The Inuzuka, who bloodlines allow them to track down enemies to kill them as well as allies to help protect them. The Hyuga bloodline is similar but can see several miles. The Aburame, who can spy and protect but also produce most of the finest silks in the world for our cloths so you could look better. Then there are Akamichi, who are able to protect you from your food being poisoned. The list goes on, and you people dare doubt them after all they have done for you." Kaji raised his voice to say, "But then you people have the gall to go and not only disrespect the wishes of your village leaders, you also had the gall to spit on the sacrifices of a clan that has protected the entire world from the strongest demons of all. Had it not been for the sacrifices of the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan, then you would not even be here today. None of us would, as without the knowledge of the Uzumaki clan, then the Biju would have been free to destroy everything, because without the Uzumaki clan sealing knowledge, no one in the world would know how to use seals or be able to seal away the Biju." Kaji took several breaths to calm down and said, "You people have become arrogant in your ways. Your friends and family who died the night the Kyuubi was released on Konoha would kill you for dishonoring them as you have. Even though the Sandaime kept most of the truth hidden from you, there was enough proof looking you every day in the face for you all to figure out. The Konoha Heian having the Uzumaki spiral in it, the reason Naruto Uzumaki looks like his father, the way Kyuubi disappeared all those years ago when the Shoden and Madara fought and appeared inside the village walls a few years ago. You people coined a phrase about looking underneath the beneath. You also coined a phrase about the will of fire. Both were things that have made this village seem to be the strongest of all the hidden villages as well as the greatest. But what I see now is that you have turned your back on everything you once stood for. You have become worse than the hidden village of the mist, where they have students in the academy live, eat, and sleep together until the day of graduation, where they force the students to kill their classmates in order to pass. You have become worse than the land of water, who kill newborn children because they might have a bloodline that could be used to kill you, or worse than them because you cried out in a mob fashion for a newborn child to be murdered for saving and protecting you. Those who were feeling guilty now appeared afraid when Kaji shook his head and said, "You have embarrassed me and my country to the point I should order for you and your village to be destroyed." Kaji responded, "But I am instead going to teach you all a lesson to see if you can change your ways. I am going to give you all a taste of your own medicine. I told you all about the demons in the Forest of Death. Let's see how you feel having all of your children become Jinchuriki." Everyone in the village widened their eyes when a man's voice said, "Like hell you are." Everyone turned to face Naruto, who was standing there with his arms crossed and glaring at Kaji. "How dare!" Kaji shot back. He ceased speaking as a Kage Bunshin materialized directly in front of him, holding a kunai at the point of his neck. The Naruto on the roof stated, "We are both Kage Bunshin, but that doesn't mean that we aren't solid enough to end your life. As you can see, I am good enough with them to make them appear anywhere I want without smoke, so you will shut up and listen to me or I will kill you, and since you and your men don't know where the real me is, then you can't stop me before you're dead." While Kaji scowled, Hiruzen uttered the words, "Naruto, stop this." Naruto replied, "I told you an army is only as good as the man or men leading them. A good man is as guilty as an evil man when he sits back and does nothing to stop what he knows is wrong and could have stopped it. I refuse to stand by and let the innocent be hurt because of the action of others. This man wants to turn each child in this village into Jinchuriki to punish them. He's a fucking idiot because the children will be the only ones to suffer because the people of this village don't give a flying fuck about their children. All they care about is their own wealth, power, and social status. Why else would they willingly let their children become hired liars, murderers, prostitutes, and thieves?" Another Naruto appeared with a kunai at his neck, silencing a man in the crowd who said, "Watch your mouth, you fucking duh." Naruto on the roof said, "I'm not your fucking bitch anymore, Konoha. You piss me off, I'll either put you in the hospital or in the ground." Now, as I was saying, the people of this village only care about their own wealth, power, and social status. To prove this, I will use Sasuke Uchiha as an example. The people of this village have their daughters trying day in and day out to seduce him because of his clan name and wealth, because they believe that if they can get their daughters to fuck him, it would improve their own personal status. Like me, you don't see him, you see only his clan name and his status. You use your daughters as whores for your own gain. Just like what this village does to Kunoichi. Instead of giving Kunoichi equal training, you have them do flower pressing and tea ceremonies so they can seduce their targets. So they can get close to sleep with them for money or information. Just like prostitutes, you have your children go to an academy and learn where to put a kunai in a person to kill someone in cold blood. Sure, sometimes it's against an enemy ninja or a mercenary, but how many times are you going to be sent for an assassination to kill some innocent man who only wanted to raise his family on land that his parents owned before him, but because some rich or corrupt businessman wants the innocent man land? Your children are being specifically trained to go in and kill the innocent man, his wife, and children to make an example of them. You're also having your children learn to break into homes to steal, or like the Hokage has shown everyone here, to become nothing more than a liar. The Naruto who was speaking looked at Kaji and said, "You turning the innocent children in the village into Jinchuriki so they could be seen as weapons would do nothing but cause the innocent to suffer while the guilty got away free. As long as I live, I won't stand by and do nothing like those who failed me growing up, even if it cost me my life, because I don't fear death. I would fucking embrace it if my death would spare one innocent child from going through the hell I had to live. You want to hurt these people in a way to teach them a lesson. Then do it in a way that they will remember. Hurt their wealth, status, and power." Kaji replied, "Boy, you have the gall to threaten me and try to tell me what to do. I'll not only punish those so-called innocent children, but I'll force their own parents to be the ones to seal the demons in them." The next instant, Naruto pushed a kunai into Kaji's heart, causing blood to fly. The entire village fell silent as everyone watched in disbelief as Naruto stood over the Fire Lord's body, frozen in place, thinking, "I killed him. I didn't mean to. I only wanted to keep him from hurting those who are innocent." The words of a samurai guard were, "Find the real him, kill the assassin." Every Naruto in the town square was engulfed in smoke. Shit, what am I going to do? The whole village is starting to look for me. I got to run Aki. I got to get to her and get out of here. The real Naruto thought as he broke into an empty apartment. Naruto started putting on an Anbu mask and uniform that he had discovered in the Uchiha district, complete with a Weasil. After putting it on, he slipped out of the village and headed toward the woods from the apartment. It was late in the evening when Naruto arrived at the shop where Aki lived, and he discovered her locking the door. When he ran to the door after removing his disguise and throwing it in the trash, Aki saw him and hurriedly unlocked it, saying, "Naruto, what are you doing here? What's wrong? You look out of breath and scared." She then let him in and shut the door. "Aki, I did something I didn't mean to, but," Naruto said, leaning forward and placing his hands on his knees. As she ascended the stairs, Aki said, "Calm down and take a few breaths. Come upstairs and I'll get you some water to help you calm down." After taking a few deep breaths, Naruto followed her until he heard a sound that briefly drew his attention as he entered her home. Tinkle tinkle tinkle. What was that? It sounded like some sort of bell. It doesn't matter, I need to tell Aki and get out of here, Naruto thought as he glanced around. With a glass of water in hand, Aki emerged from the kitchen and said, "Here, drink this and then tell me what's wrong." "You need to breathe or you will make yourself sick from drinking too fast," Aki said, taking the now empty glass of water as Naruto scowled and drank it quickly. "No time, Aki, they're after me," Naruto said, shaking his head. Aki said, "Who's after you? What's going on?" with a perplexed expression. Looking down, Naruto scowled and uttered, "Inside of me the Kyuubi no Kitsune is sealed inside of me." Aki replied, "So that doesn't mean you're the Kyuubi I use sealing all the time, and I know that when you seal something away in something it doesn't make them the same thing." The weight of the world lifted from his shoulders when he heard that. Well, in Konoha a lot of people don't see things that way. They see me as a weapon at best or a demon at worst. But because of all the info about my family and clan, I found out thing in Konoha went to hell and a lot of people were in trouble. But the Fire Lord got pissed and wanted to punish the people of Konoha by hurting their children. I couldn't stand by and do nothing, so I stood up to him. We got in an argument in front of the entire village and he said he was going to hurt the children and have their parents the ones to carry out the punishment, and I snapped and I killed him." Aki, as he glanced down. With a gasp, Aki covered her mouth and uttered, "Oh Naruto, are you alright? You're not scared of me, you're not angry?" Naruto said, his eyes widening as he looked up at her. Aki wrapped her hand around his mouth and said, "You did what you had to in order to protect the lives of innocent people. People are after you now because of you killing the Fire Lord, right? That's why you were out of breath when you got here." "I got to leave. I want you to come with me," Naruto said, nodding. Aki laughed and replied, "I'm not a ninja, so you will have to carry me if we don't want to get caught. If you can carry me I'll come with you anywhere." Aki said, "Let me grab the sealing scrolls one made for when I was going to come to Konoha with you. It's got most of my stuff and anything that I don't get I can replace," as she left the room after Naruto had given her a hug and a kiss. Naruto went to the window and peered out to see if there were any Konoha residents. After a few minutes, Aki returned to the room where Naruto was and said, "Okay, let's go." She was wearing a black coat that reached her ankles. Saying, "Thank you for coming with me, Aki." Naruto approached. Aki replied, "I know, let's go. We can use the night to cover our tracks. I've heard ninja can walk on water, can you?" Aki looks at Naruto and says, "There's a river 2 miles west of here. If we get there then you can run on the river south until it hit the coast and we can catch a ship somewhere far away from here that will cover our scent." As he made his way to the door, Naruto remarked, "Smart and beautiful, alright, let's do this." With a smile, Aki followed Naruto to the door, but before she could leave, she put a small bag and a scroll on the end table and shut the door. "Just be calm and don't draw attention to yourself until we get out of the village, then you can carry me," Aki said as they arrived at the shop's door. It took just 10 minutes to leave the village after Naruto nodded. Aki was on Naruto's back with her arms encircling his chest, and Naruto was holding her legs as he ran through the woods. He soon reached the river and started to head south. Aki remarked, "Let's rest for now and continue in the morning," after Naruto had been exhausted for several hours. Naruto replied, "Alright, but no fire, it will give us away." Aki replied, "Alright, but that means you're going to have to hold me to give me some heat for the night to keep me warm." As he drew her in and they held each other, Naruto said, "Gladly." When Aki woke up the following morning and felt the wind blowing past her face, she realized Naruto was carrying her bridal style and thought, "This will work. I believe there is a shipping village about 3 miles south of here, but we need to do something if we want people not to recognize you," Aki remarked as they arrived at the coast. Naruto inquired, "What do you mean?" Aki responded, "We need to cut your hair. Blonde spiky hair will stand out too easy, and if they somehow track us here then someone might be able to find out where we are heading. I got some scissors as well as some dyes that I use on cloths I could put in your hair to change your color. I got brown, black, blue, green, and red. Which do you want?" After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, "Red, like my mother." Aki replied, "Alright, go out into the water and get your hair wet and come back and I'll get my scissors and the red dye." With a nod, Naruto rolled his pants up to his knees, stepped into the water just below them, leaned down, and dipped his hair in the salt water. He walked back up to where Aki was after getting it wet, and she promptly started cutting his hair so that it had less height and volume before using some dye to turn it red. After finishing, she walked over and washed her hands in the salt water, saying, "Wait about 5 minutes and wash it out." Why were you so willing to come with me after what I did?" Naruto asked, nodding and biting his lip. "I'm doing what my heart tells me to do in order to protect someone precious to me," Aki said, gazing out to sea. "You're precious to me as well, Aki," Naruto said with a smile. Aki took a quick look at Naruto before turning back to face the ocean. Naruto carried Aki to the village she had told him about after removing the extra dye from his hair. When Aki saw a restaurant, he said, "Naruto, why don't you go in there and get us something to eat and I'll go to the dock master and find us a ship out of here. Just meet me back here in about 20 minutes, alright?" After entering the restaurant, Naruto remarked, "Sure, that will work." He scowled as he took out his wallet and considered, "I don't have much money left. How are we going to pay for a ship out of here?" "Ah, that smells good. Guess what? I got us on a ship leaving in less than an hour. So let's eat real quick and go get to the docks and so we can set out," Aki said as he approached Naruto, who was leaning against a tree 20 minutes later. "How did you pay for the tickets, Aki?" asked Naruto. Aki sighed. "Well, we have to work our way across. I'm going to be working in the laundry room and you're going to be working as a deckhand, but at least we won't have to pay and our meals are free. We also won't be able to share a room together, so the only time we will get to see each other until we get to where we are heading. Is that alright with you?" "I guess," Naruto scowled, adding, "I just wish we could share rooms." Aki stated, "The ship we are going across on belongs to the priestess of Demon Country. The ship is considered a holy place, so they don't want to desecrate the ship by allowing men and women to sleep together." Naruto replied, "Oh, I think I understand. Is the priestess on board since the ship's here?" Aki replied, "I don't know. We will have to wait and see." They both take a seat on a bench and start eating after Naruto nods. Following their meal together, they strolled to the docks, where Naruto was astounded to see a massive ship the size of the Hokage Tower. "Is that the ship we are going on?" he asked. As she grabbed his arm, Aki remarked, "Yes, there's the captain, come on." As they arrived at the ramp, Naruto noticed a man in his late 50s smoking a pipe. He had glasses, gray and black hair, and said, "Ah, it's good to see you again. I take it this is the young man you were telling me about." Aki replied, "Yes, Captain. I already explained that he would be working as a deckhand to pay his way across while I worked in the laundry room. I also told him that we couldn't share rooms due to this being the priestess's ship." "All right, young man, you are and I am Captain Gnome," the captain said, nodding. After saying, "Naruto, my name is Naruto," Naruto decided it would be best to withhold his last name. Gnome replied, "Right, if you will follow me, Naruto, I will show you what to do, and I already showed you, so you can go begin when you're ready," while staring at Aki. "See you later, Naruto." Aki nodded as she stepped onto the ship. Following Gnome, Naruto said, "Your first job is to load the last of these supplies onto the ship. Grab them and carry them up here. Follow me." Gnome stopped in front of a pile of bags. After following Gnome, Naruto said, "Set the bag on the right side of this door. Someone will stock it where it goes later. Now get started. The sooner you finish, the sooner we can leave." Gnome stopped in front of a door. Naruto nods, clasps his hands together, and says, "Kagebunshin no Jutsu." 20 Naruto then emerge, each snatching a bag and placing it where instructed. With wide eyes, Gnome thought, "Well, I was told I could have him do anything I wanted for passage." He placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and remarked, "I think I'm going to like having you around, kid." After spending hours cleaning the ship's deck, securing objects below deck, and organizing the rooms below deck, Naruto was worn out removing coral from the ship's hull, painting the bridge's exterior wood, and scraping off old paint. A figure approached Naruto from behind and asked, "Who are you and how did you get on board this ship?" As he sat outside with his arms resting on the rail and his legs dangling over it, gazing out at the sea while the moon glinted off the water, Naruto turned to see a 13-year-old girl wearing a white shirt, a yellow jacket over it, and pink pants. She had blonde hair and light purplish pink eyes. Naruto replied, Isn't it proper manners to give your name when asking others theirs?" The girl's eyes widened a little, and she said in a startled tone, You don't know who I am." "No, I don't," Naruto said, shaking his head. "My name is Naruto." After observing his response to her name, the girl said, "Shion." When Naruto said, "It's nice to meet you, Shion," she noticed that he did not respond to her name and assumed, he doesn't know me. "What are you doing on this ship?" asked Shion. Seeing that Shion was not amused, Naruto said, "Slaving away mostly. The captain has agreed to let me and my companion ride across in exchange for working for him." He added, "Are you the priestess?" "My partner works in the laundry room, and I work as a deckhand." Just as Shion was beginning to let her guard down, she froze and asked icily, "What do you mean?" "There's no need to get your underwear tangled," Naruto said, "since Aki informed me that this ship belonged to the priestess of Demon Country. I was just curious if you were the priestess. I wanted to ask how you felt about the paint job I did on the bridge and to say that I liked the ship," as he got to his feet. Naruto's remark caused Shion's face to flush, and he exclaimed, "How dare you speak to me in such a way, You what, don't act like you're all high and mighty, missy," Naruto said, his face changing to a frown. Take that attitude of thinking you're better than everyone else and shove it up your ass. You came into this world just like me and everyone else, regardless of whether you're a priestess or an orphan on that day. You came out butt-ass naked, screaming and kicking. The company here makes the place smell, so I need some air. If you don't mind, I've had enough of people acting that way in my life. Shien's expression changed from embarrassment to rage as Naruto turned, and she raised both her hands and yelled, "Get off my ship!" She shoved Naruto toward the rail, causing him to begin to topple over, but to her astonishment, Naruto grabbed her arm and pulled her over with him, sending both of them into the water. The ship was already 20 feet away when Naruto surfaced, and he heard a cry of "Help!" Shien was trying to swim a few feet away, but her head kept going under the water when she surfaced again. He scowled, sent chakra to his hands, and pulled himself up on top of the water. He then heard, "Can't swim." He scowled, walked over on top of the water, grabbed Shien's hand, and pulled her out of the water long enough for her to catch her breath. "Look what you done, Miss High and Mighty." After coughing up some water, Shien glared at Naruto, who chuckled when he noticed that her makeup had been ruined by the water, giving her face a hilarious appearance. Naruto laughed even harder as Shien pouted after hearing him laugh and yelling, "Don't laugh at me." After becoming enraged, Shien yelled, "Just get me out of this water and back to my ship, you jerk." Naruto replied, "You shouldn't insult the person saving your life, you little hellcat." As Naruto released her hand and she fell under the water once more, Shien screamed, saving my life, you were the cough." Then he grabbed her and pulled her back up, and as she coughed to catch her breath, Naruto remarked, "I was trying to save myself from where you attacked me, you hellcat." Shien looked at Naruto and said, "Now ask me nicely and I'll get you back to your ship, if not then I'll leave your spoiled ass here and let you learn to swim the way I did, do or die." Shien's expression changed to one of fear, and she said, "You wouldn't, would you?" in a terrified tone. Shien eeped as Naruto scowled at the terrified tone, hauled her out of the water, and picked her up bridal style before sprinting off in the direction of the ship's lights, which were visible in the distance. After about 5 minutes of traveling to the ship and getting back on deck, Shien turned and gave Naruto a slap across the face before stomping away. With a sigh, Naruto removed his shirt and started to wring the water out of it while holding his face and saying, "You're welcome, hellcat." Shien, who had stomped off, turned to give Naruto one final glare before freezing in place upon realizing that he was shirtless. Shien was looking at Naruto when a woman's voice said, "Are you alright, dear? You're soaking wet?" from inside the cabin. "No, mother, Shien said as he turned. Shien's mom, Miroku, remarked, "I didn't know you knew how to swim, dear." "I don't, mother, Shien said. Miroku replied, "But if you don't know how to swim, then how did you get back on board the ship? Because the only way you could have got that wet is if you were swimming in the ocean." "I fell overboard after," Shien said. "Oh Shien, you should be more careful, dear," Miroku exclaimed, gasping. "How did you rejoin the team?" "Naruto saved me, but," Shien uttered. Miroku replied, "Naruto, the boy who is working as a deckhand." "Yes, mother, but," Shien said, "I knew that boy was special," Miroku remarked. "Given what is going on in his life, I must give him some sort of gratitude for saving you all. Ask him to serve as your personal bodyguard." "Mother, what?" Shien said, her eyes widening. "Ah, you don't need to thank me. My love, go get some dry clothes and rest," Miroku said. "Before we dock tomorrow, I'll call Naruto and ask him. You two will get along just fine, I'm sure. Go now, young lady. I don't want you to sleep in damp clothes and get a cold." According to Shien, "But mother, I told you to go, young lady," Miroku said. "I will bend you over my knees and tan your hide if you don't listen to me, even though you will be considered an adult when you turn 14 next week." Miroku smirked to herself as she watched her daughter walk away, and Shien huffed as she crossed her arms, pouted, and stomped away. When she was gone, she looked out her cabin's manhole window and saw Naruto, who was now wearing boxers, squeezing the water out of them. Naruto was sleeping on deck the following morning when he heard a displeased voice yell, "Wake up." With a moan, Naruto rolled onto his side when Shien, who was standing there with her hands on her hips, noticed a bucket of water a few feet away. She narrowed her eyes, went over to pick it up, carried it to Naruto's location, and started to spill it. Then, while Shien screamed as the freezing water hit her head, a cage bun Shin sitting in the crow's nest used the replacement jutsu on both Shien and Naruto, making Naruto appear where Shien had been. The memories of the cage bun Shin dispelling struck Naruto, who blinked and looked around before turning to get a rag and starting to clean up the mess. He said, "Serves you right, hellcat. You know, I don't need a brush, but you do to get rid of that mess you call hair." Shien glared at Naruto and threw the scrub brush that had fallen out of the bucket at him. Naruto instinctively spun around, grabbed the brush, and glared at her before turning and hurriedly leaving. Frustrated, Shion screamed and got to her feet, threatening to stomp away, but she slipped on the brush, slipped back, and fell on her ass, screaming and grabbing her butt. As he turned the corner and started down the ship's side path toward the rear, Naruto grinned and thought, "Payback's a bitch." Then, in a questioning tone, a female voice asked, "Do you take pleasure out of the pain of others?" When Naruto turned to face the voice, he saw a woman in her 30s wearing exquisite silk ceremonial robes, a golden crown on her head, long silver hair, and eyes that were purplish pink like Shion's. Excuse me, who are you?" said Naruto. The lady replied, "Shouldn't you give your name first when asking others to hear?" "Oh yeah, sorry," Naruto said. "My name is Naruto." "My name is Miroku," she said. "Now, if it's okay with you, could you please respond to my question? Do you enjoy seeing other people suffer?" "No, but," Naruto scowled as he attempted to express his feelings. According to Miroku, "But what, said Naruto. "Yes," Miroku replied. "I'm waiting." Naruto let out a sigh. "I don't get pleasure out of seeing others in pain, but those who try and cause pain should experience the pain they give others." Miroku replied, "Really, does that feeling apply to everyone or just those who hurt those you care about?" "Everyone," said Naruto as she turned and began to enter her room. Miroku grinned and remarked, "I see. I never expected you to be a liar, Naruto." Following her into the room, Naruto's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "What? I'm not a liar. You say you think that way about everyone, but then what about the pain you have caused others with your recent actions in Konoha?" said Miroku, who had pulled her legs underneath herself and sat down on a pillow platform. Miroku remarked, "Aki told me about your situation." As Naruto's eyes widened, she claimed that you killed someone because you allowed your rage over the hardships and pain in your life to impair your judgment. Is that accurate? Naruto lowered his gaze and muttered, "Yes." "Then what about the suffering you inflicted on that man's family and friends?" Miroku asked. "According to what you said, someone ought to murder a loved Oniya, perhaps that Aki girl." With a terrified expression on his face, Naruto said, "No, please no, you wouldn't do that, would you?" "No," Miroku said, glancing at Naruto, "but before we dock later today, I do have a question I would like you to answer. Would you use and harm an innocent stranger you've never met before in order to save someone you care about who is in danger?" Naruto uttered the words, "I don't know why. Aki gave me this to give you when you arrived in Oni country," Miroku said, drawing out a scroll. "I asked her why she couldn't give you this herself, and she told me why she couldn't. I could tell you, but reading it yourself would be preferable." As he accepted the scroll, Naruto scowled and questioned, "If Aki asked you to give that to me when we arrived, why are you giving it to me now?" Glancing out the window, Miroku said, "Read the scroll and then I'll tell you." With his lips pursed, Naruto unfolded the scroll and read. "Greetings, Naruto. You have arrived in Oni country if you are reading this, and you have discovered that I am not with you." Naruto's eyes widened as a startled expression appeared on his face. "I'm not with you because I kind of lied to you. You see, when you asked me why I was so eager to go with you, I told you that it was because I was following my heart's guidance to protect someone I cared about, which was true, but I gave you the impression that it was you when it was actually my family." After scowling, Naruto reflected, "I guess I can understand that. Women are just as cunning and manipulative as men, so I had planned to deceive you from the first time I saw you in order to help me protect my family. I really care about my family, and you may hate me for what I am about to say, but this is something you need to learn." A ache in Naruto's chest made him think, "Not you also, Aki. You were the first man I ever dated out of love, but I made a long-standing promise to myself that my friends and family would come before my own self-interest, so when I saw you were in danger, I decided to protect you and did what I had to do to ensure your survival. Almost everything I had planned went exactly as planned, but during the day we spent together, I also began to feel some feelings for you. I told Priestess Miroku about you, what happened, and why you were in danger, and she agreed to help you by letting you enter her country since you were a good man. She also agreed to give you a job and help hide you. You have your goals and I have mine. Be true to yourself and accomplish your goals of recreating your family and standing true to your values. Don't become what the idiots in Konoha see you as. Instead, become who you were meant to be. I doubt that we will ever cross paths again, and please don't look for me because I will hide from you in order to protect my family and you. I hope you have a large family and a long and happy life. Farewell." Naruto collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. According to Miroku, people do both great and terrible things for their family, friends, and allies. She closed her eyes. Clutching his fist, Naruto uttered, "I am at a loss for what to do." As he closed his eyes and tried to suppress his feelings, he said, "Everything that has happened has been for nothing now. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't." Miroku remarked, "Did you act in a certain way because you felt it was the right thing to do? what you wanted, or what she wanted. A few moments of silence were followed by Naruto's scowl and his statement, a little bit of all three I guess. Moroku said, you've already met my daughter Shion, with a small smile. What do you think of her, please? Sincerely, I will not take offense. She's a spoiled brat who believes that everyone is beneath her and that she can do anything she wants, Naruto said, squeezing his lips. With a sigh, Moroku turned to face Naruto and asked, do you know why she's that way? Moroku responded, because it's easier to deal with the loneliness she feels that way, while Naruto shook his head. No, she can convince herself that she is alone by choosing to act in this manner rather than out of fear. When Naruto heard this, his eyes widened, and he questioned, what do you mean? You see, Shion and I have a bloodline that enables us to defeat demons, but there is a second part of our bloodline, Moroku explained. That's why I am a priestess. When we are in danger of dying, we can communicate with ourselves in the past. The message tells us who was with us at the time and how they lost their lives to keep us safe. This enables us to inform others about their futures and deaths in an effort to inspire them to give up their lives so that we can live. We are revered for defending them against demons, but we are also feared for our prophetic abilities. People run away from Shion when she tries to be around people her age because they think that if they get too close to us, they will die when on duty. The people at the palace are around us, but as soon as their shift is over, the majority of them depart right away to protect themselves as a result. We are largely alone with only one another for solace is something I'm sure you can identify with, Shinshiniki Saijin. With a bewildered tone, Naruto blinked and uttered, what? I know more about you than you believe, Naruto. Moroku remarked, I am aware that a Senju was one of your ancestors. I am also aware that a Yamanaka and an Uzumaki were among your ancestors. With a tone of surprise, Naruto questioned, how do you know that? Moroku stated, I've had a vision about you in which I learned about your heritage. In a terrified tone, Moroku asked, does that mean I'm going to die soon? Shion, you can enter now and shut the door behind you, Moroku said, scowling and closing her eyes. I want to talk to you too about something. Shion entered with a look on her face that suggested she had been caught spying, and Naruto scowled as he turned to see her. When Shion shut the door, Naruto snarled, asking, what's going on, mother? Please sit down, and you might as well join Naruto. Moroku said it will take some time. When Naruto noticed Shion sitting on her mother's knees, he approached and grabbed a chair, causing Shion to look shocked. Moroku looked amused, and Naruto remarked, what, if we are going to be here for a while then why not sit comfortably? Shion replied, because it's proper decorum and manners. Naruto replied, no, it's so your legs are hurting you enough to keep you awake from falling asleep during boring meetings and speeches. Moroku covered her mouth to contain her laughter, but you could see the amused expression around her eyes as Shion blinked with a scandalous expression. Well, go ahead and say whatever you want to say, Naruto said. If this takes a long time, you will both be the ones who suffer. Naruto said, Hellcat, what's wrong? And Shion glared at him. I'm upset that you didn't consider that. With her hands extended, Shion screamed and leapt at Naruto, grabbing him by the neck and sending him and the chair tumbling backwards. When he attempted to block her attack, Shion landed on his stomach with a leg on each side of him, and Moroku noticed that Naruto had landed on his back with his hands on his breast. Her hands were around his neck, shaking him back and forth as she growled at Naruto. After his head struck the ground, he was dazed by the shaking and the loss of air. Seeing spots in his vision, Naruto thought, is this how I'm going to die? Fuck this. He squeezed his hands as hard as he could, making Shion scream as her breasts burst. She released Naruto's neck and grasped his wrist, attempting to pry his hands away. Naruto slammed Shion's onto the ground on her back between his legs after hooking her by the elbows with his legs and yanking her away from him. Naruto, who was gasping for air, and Shion, who was seeing spots, were staring at each other when he heard Aki's voice say, you know, 2 nights ago you and I were in that same positions, Naruto, though we had less clothing then. Naruto froze. Mother, where are you? Who are you and what did you do with my mother? I demand you tell me. Shion turned after hearing the strange woman's voice and glared at Aki, who was seated in the same positions as Moroku had been just moments before. When Naruto remembered the letter, his expression changed from one of confusion to a frown. Aki, is that you? But, he said. Moroku was sitting there when the smoke cleared, and Naruto's and Shion's eyes widened. Naruto then got up and uttered the words, what's going on here, in a commanding voice. Moroku replied, if you both will sit down and act your age and not like a pair of children, I will explain everything to you both from the beginning. With a scowl, Naruto crossed his arms and uttered, I think I'll stand. With a startled expression on her face, Shien glanced between Naruto and Moroku before recalling what Aki had said and asking, "Mother, what's going on?" Moroku sighed and said, "I told you how our bloodline allowed us to see the future. Well, that is only a brief description of what it is like when you're fully trained. It's part of the reason why I demanded that you were not trained as a shinobi Shien, because I did not want you to have the same burden that I have. I don't just see the deaths of those who die around me. When I'm about to die, I see the lives and death of nearly everyone around me, including myself. You don't know what it's like to be in someone's life and know the exact day they're going to die. How they're going to die, to have no surprise in life, as you have already seen everything in advance. People fear you, Shien, because they are afraid they will die. I live in fear of others because I know when and how they're going to die." "Is that why you did not marry my father?" Shien inquired. Moroku clenched her teeth and said, "Shien, I told you that I would explain things about your father when you were older because I didn't want you to learn the truth." Shien questioned, "What truth?" Moroku stated, "I knew who your father was going to be. I knew that we would be happy together, but I also knew that he would die like he did, so I had done what I had to do in order to become pregnant with you while not getting close to him, in order to protect my heart from having to be hurt by his death later." Moroku looked at Shien with wide eyes. "That is why I was so adamant about not letting you become a shinobi. I did not want you to face living a life alone like I have out of fear of being hurt. You can still be surprised and someday maybe find someone to love and be happy." Moroku remarked, "Sadly, I won't be here to see that happen," as Shien cast his gaze downward. With a shocked expression on her face that she shared with Naruto, Shien questioned, "What do you mean, mother?" Moroku looked out of the window and said, "In less than a year, a demon by the name of Morio will come to our kingdom, and I will defeat him by splitting his spirit from his body and sealing both away in two separate locations, similar to what the Six Realm Sage did, but in doing so I will die." Moroku raised her hand to silence Shien's and Naruto as their eyes widened at this. When she realized that they wouldn't interrupt, she kept going. "In a few years Morio will be freed from his prison and come for you, Shien, because he wants your powers. Originally at that time a group of ninja from Konoha would have came to help protect you. Among them was Naruto here." Shien turned to face Naruto, who had a neutral expression on his face, and then she turned back to her mother. Moroku stated, "At that time I saw as you and Naruto became friends while Naruto protected you from Morio forces. Even though you had seen his death and warned him to run and leave you, he refused. Because of the bond you both grew to have over that time, you decided to sacrifice yourself, Shien, in order to protect Naruto by giving him the bell I gave you for protection. This changed his fate and not only saved his life, but then he saved yours, and then together you combined your powers and not only defeated Morio but completely destroyed him. At the time I believed it was because you were truly stronger than me and perhaps you were Shien, but I know now that's not the entire reason you both were able to destroy Morio." "What do you mean, mother?" Shien inquired. Moroku stated, "I called Naruto earlier the Shinshiniki Saijin, the mind, body, spirit holy man. The reason I called him that is I recently learned that Naruto is similar to you, and I won't tell you who out of respect for Naruto, but I will tell you that Naruto contains 3 separate bloodlines that aid him in defeating a demon himself. One that can attack the demon's mind, one that could attack a demon's body, and one that could attack its power." Shien's eyes widened, and Naruto scowled and squinted before uttering, "I think you should stop explaining about my abilities and explain how and why you were hanged into Aki, as well as what the hell this offer I read about is, because I'm starting to think that the reason I'm here isn't what I believed." Moroku nods and continues, "A little less than 3 months ago I had a new vision about your future, Shien. In those vision Naruto never came to our country and met you. He never came to save you, and I watched as not only did you die but Morio escaped and took over the world. I was shocked by this and had to find out what had happened. Why did Naruto not come to save you? So that is why I had us leave our country and head to the fire country. I then had you stay with the ship while I went to Konoha to see if I could find Naruto, and I did, and when I did I saw the reason he couldn't come save you is because he was soon to die after killing the Fire Lord in order to save the lives of those he saw as innocent." With a slight sigh, Naruto asked, "So is that how you knew about Aki and me?" Moroku responded, "No, in my new vision of you I saw as you left Konoha to get cloths and then you would enter the shop you did. But when you went in there you would meet a couple in their late 40 who had a daughter that was away getting supplies. You would have befriended them but never met their daughter, and you also would have returned to Konoha where the vision I saw play out, and when you were in shock after killing the Fire Lord you would have been killed by someone. I had decided to go to the shop you would get your cloths at and meet you there and offer you a choice at a new life away from Konoha, hoping that you would take it and not return to Konoha. Nevertheless," Naruto stated, "but things didn't work out that way." Moroku said, "No, when I got to the shop I saw a vision of the couple and the daughter I mentioned. The daughter was just getting ready to leave. I saw the daughter was captured and became a sex slave before she was killed. I then saw as the couple lost their business to the man who captured their daughter and then were turned into slaves where they would die. I decided since I was trying to follow Xian example from the future and change the future for you, I would try to change the future for them. I told them who I was and that I wanted to surprise my daughter with a new outfit, and so I offered them a large payment if they would let me rent out their shop a couple of days, and since I make nearly all of Xian's cloths myself so we could spend time together and I'm a decent tailor, they agreed, and I told them to rent a couple of Konoha shinobi when they left on their trip and paid them for the ninja help as an act of kindness. I then decided I would act like the shop was mine and wait for you to show up while using a henge. Feeling offended, Naruto said accusingly, "So you used me?" Moroku replied, "Yes, but there's more you need to hear, please." Xian was staring back and forth in confusion while Naruto scowled and nodded. Moroku continued, "At that time I really didn't know much about you besides what I had saw in my vision of you. When you came into the shop I had planned to just befriend you and tell you about Oni country and try to convince you to go there to start a new life. But then once I started to talk to you and got to know you I realized there was more to you. Then I suspected you reminded me of Xian and myself, and the more I knew about you the less I wanted to trick you into coming in order to protect Xian, but more to protect yourself. Besides Xian, you were the first person I have felt emotionally attached to in any way. Think about what I wrote in that scroll and then think about everything I said just now and know that I meant everything." After a few minutes of silence during which Naruto considered what she had written and said, Moroku said, "But I have another confession to make." "What the hell with all these damn confessions? Am I your priest of something?" moaned Naruto. Xian grinned and remarked, "Well, mother has given you the title holy man, so." Naruto turned to her and said, "Back off Hellcat before I decide to bend you over my knees and perform an exorcism on you until your ass is as red as my hair." According to Xian, you wouldn't dare. After transforming into a monk, Naruto made a cage bun shin who hanged into a paddle that looked like wood and had the word, "Begone demons," written on it. As Xian screamed and fell backwards, blue chains erupted from Naruto's hands in a prayer position, and he uttered the words, "Dear Lord, bind this demon in holy shit." When Naruto saw the chains, he said, "What the hell, that's like what mom used against the Kyuubi the day I was born." The other two were all staring at this with wide eyes. With her eyes narrowed, Moroku said, "I see." Xian replied, "What do you see, mom? Those things nearly killed me." Moroku replied, "No, they would have only restrained you. Naruto, your hands are in a snake hand sign. You must have sent chakra to them while thinking of binding, which caused you to activate one of your bloodlines." When Naruto noticed that the chains were still attached to his skin but had fallen to the ground, he said, How do I get rid of these chains?" "Well, that didn't work. Try putting your hands in a ram seal and try dispelling them like a genjutsu," Moroku said. Try stopping sending chakra to them and releasing the hand sign." After giving a nod, Naruto released the chains, which transformed into chakra and returned to his body. "Now, why don't you both stop provoking each other and release all of your jutsu?" Moroku said. "I wish to complete my confession." Moroku said, "Well, I'll just come out and say it." Ignoring Naruto's groan, "The Fire Lord has not died." Xian and Naruto both blinked, and Naruto asked, "What do you mean?" "I made a decision that I knew would have a significant impact." Moroku stated, "Everything you recall actually happened when you left the store and went to Konoha, but do you recall hearing a strange bell sound when you returned to the store?" "Now that you mention it, I did remember that," Naruto said, blinking. "That was me sending a message to your former self using my powers on you," Moroku said. "You had future memories and experiences of what would happen when you went to Konoha and everything that transpired until you returned to the store as soon as you left to go there in the first place before you even left the apartment. You believed that you were exhausted from running away from everyone who was pursuing you upon your return, but in reality, it was simply the impact of all those memories. Basically, only you and I know what will happen in the future, but there was a cost to my actions." Xian inquired, "What price?" "Mother, I no longer have the ability to see into the future." Moroku declared, "I can't tell whether my decisions have saved or doomed everyone I care about." "Was it real? Was what happened between us real?" Naruto asked, closing his eyes. Moroku lowered her head and said, "Yes, it was real." Xian appeared perplexed. You used me," Naruto uttered. He turned and headed for the door, saying, "You used me like everyone else." Then Moroku yelled, "Wait!" Without pausing, Naruto walked out of the room and slammed the door behind him. "Mother, what happened between you and him?" Xian said in a terrified voice as Moroku closed her eyes and started to cry. As she started to describe what she had done and what had transpired between Aki and Naruto, Moroku said, "I betrayed him the worst way possible. A warm breeze blew over Naruto as he sat on the deck, crying, and he closed his eyes, thinking, "Do you get pleasure out of my pain, Kami?" He then smelled the ocean breeze and thought, "Mom, that's the scent you had, the ocean breeze." A tiny smile appeared on his face as he suddenly remembered the day of his birth. After an hour, Shion emerged from her mother's room, spotted Naruto close to the ship's bow, and said, "Mind if I sit down?" in a gentle tone. With a weary tone, Naruto declared, "It's your ship." Sitting beside him, Shion uttered the words, "Not yet." While Shion waited for Naruto to respond to her joke, she said, "I'm sorry." After Naruto gave her a quick glance, Shion remarked, "I've been a bitch to you for no reason." Naruto tensely looked back at the ocean as Shion sighed and remarked, "Mom told me what she did. I want to be angry at her for doing that to you." Shion said after noticing this, "She has been preparing to abandon me for a long time, and I want to be upset with her for not telling me about this Mortimer or whatever his name is, In Naruto's words, "Shut up," Shion gave him a fierce look and told him to stop talking. "You have no idea how fortunate you are to have your mother. I want to be upset with her too, but after giving it some thought, I realized that my parents didn't want me to have the life I have. They exerted every effort to keep me safe. Your mother did the same for you. You should be grateful that you have someone to take care of all of this for you. That person should be there for you when you cry yourself to sleep. Remember the stares you get from people, and realize that you are alone. I would do anything to have what you have, even for just an hour." "But," Shion said. "No," Naruto said, shaking his head, "telling your mother that you love her, giving her the biggest hug you can, and holding her for as long as you can are all part of your plan to march back into that room. You express your forgiveness and gratitude to her for her great concern for you. How long you have left to do that is unknown to you when we arrive at our destination. Do you really want to risk that?" Shion said, covered in smoke. Naruto re-emerged as a monk and uttered the words, "Listen to your father, young lady." Naruto and Shion both started laughing and biting their lip. "May I ask you a question?" Shion asked with a smile. "According to Naruto, you just did." After giving him a fierce look, Shion chuckled and said, "Go ahead." "Why are you defending her?" Shion asked. "I'm upset with her," Naruto said, closing his eyes. "I want to hold her accountable because I'm hurt, but then I think back to when she asked me if I enjoyed seeing other people suffer. Then I recalled what my cousin had said about people not understanding one another. He said that people can only bring me peace through suffering. I didn't understand him at the time, but I've been thinking about it a lot, especially when I consider my parents. Through my suffering, they were able to bring Konoha peace from the threat posed by Kyuubi. Your mother tells us that she saw you die and that it caused her pain, so she came to find me. She did cause me pain, but she also brought me peace. I finally have the answers to questions I've been waiting for. Your mother claims in her vision that she will temporarily bring you peace through her own suffering of dying and leaving you alone. A good man is just as evil as an evil man if he does nothing to stop an evil man when he knows what is right. I want revenge on everyone who has harmed me in my life, but what would revenge really accomplish? She also helped me understand the pain of loss and suffering through her actions, and I can understand the pain the people of Konoha had toward me. More suffering, more pain. I could easily emulate other people and become just like them, but I've made the decision not to do so because I know they're wrong. I refuse to change who I am. I'll follow my instincts, what other people advise me to do, or what is convenient or easy." Shion's eyes were wide as she watched Naruto's final words grow more powerful and convincing, and she thought, wow. She also blushed a little. Behind them, Miroku said, "I'm glad to hear that, Naruto. I may understand why you did what you did and I will forgive you in time, but I can't forget what you did. Do you even know what you did to me?" Naruto said after taking a deep breath to calm himself. "Yes, said Miroku. "Shut up, you don't know what you did," Naruto said, turning to glare at her. "You made it impossible for me to trust anyone. Every time someone approaches me, I have to ask myself what they want from me, what they want with me, and what they want me to do. What do you think?" According to Miroku, "I'm actually glad I did that." With a scowl, Naruto yelled, "Fuck you." "Sure," Miroku replied. Miroku said, "Let me tell you a little secret," as Naruto and Shion's eyes widened. "Greed is what will destroy peace, but suffering can help people understand one another and bring about peace. Everyone is avaricious. Consider those fangirls. The avarice of peasants for the possessions of kings, and the avarice of smaller clans for those of larger clans. Everybody always imagines the grass on the other side of the fence is greener. What you have to pay for it and what you gain from it are the questions. It all boils down to those two questions in life. You told me how envious you were of Sasuke. Consider him from the perspective of those fangirls. he does not simply surrender himself to them, his value in their eyes increases as a result. Now imagine what one of those girls would receive if they were successful in getting him to pick them. They would gain access to his money and property, which no one could ever have enough of, the envy of others, his clan name is something that is uncommon, and the right to boast about everyone who tried to follow him but failed. If those girls are successful, they will receive all those things even if he is just an emotionless jerk. It doesn't matter to them, they will pursue him as long as the benefits they will receive from him outweigh the expenses incurred. This same way of thinking also holds true for everything else in life. Moroku said, I'm glad I showed you that you can't trust people, because honestly, you can't. To the surprise of Naruto and Shien, you can forget loyalty if something happened that was more valuable in the eyes of the person you trust than what they gain from sticking by you and what they lose by betraying you. What are you after, Moroku? You could have avoided telling us the truth, Naruto said, scowling and turning away from Moroku. What did telling us get you? In addition to having a clear conscience in case I pass away soon, I have the opportunity to teach my daughter the cost of power and, hopefully, to make a difference in the lives of the two most significant individuals in the world, Moroku stated. If not, I can at least promise you something that will help you achieve your objective, Naruto, in return for your promise to assist me with mine. Naruto questioned, which is, in order to help you bring your clan back to its former glory as the world's greatest seal masters and possibly discover something that will enable you to finally kill the Kyuubi, Moroku said, I'll grant you free access to my library, which contains all of my nation's knowledge on seals and demons. All I ask is that you protect my daughter and accept my payment. If you are unable to forgive me or do it out of kindness, ensure that she never dies at the hands of Morio. What are your thoughts? After a while, Naruto spoke. You know, I may have been joking when I threatened to bend Shien over my knees and spank her ass, but you on the other hand give me more and more reason every time we talk to carry out that threat with interest. You have got to be one of, if not the biggest fucking idiots and bitches I have ever met, and I lived in Konoha and know plenty of bitches and idiots. As he started pacing back and forth. When Shien and Moroku's eyes widened and they both began to speak, Naruto turned so that he could see them both and yelled, Don't speak. Naruto said, You say that you love your daughter and want to protect her, but then you go and do the stupidest thing possible, which is to plan to just die and leave her alone. Both women blinked when they heard this. You know what might happen in the future, and you say, Oh bless me, I'm going to sit down and take it. Naruto grabbed his hair and remarked, You said you wanted to change Shien's future after witnessing her defy fate and alter it. But you won't take action to alter your own so you can live and be with her. I'll tell you one thing, though. You act like a submissive bitch in bed, and it seems like you do the same in real life. Now here you are basically saying that everyone has a price, and then you offer to bribe me into protecting Shien. You cheapen the feelings I have for you by acting like you're nothing but a prostitute, Naruto said, as Moroku looked shocked. You can pretend to be a whore, a prostitute, or anything else you want. On the other hand, even though I may have a lot, I will never compromise my values or myself. You say that you saw my future and that our conversations taught you some things about me, but it seems like you overlooked the most crucial aspect of who I am. I refuse to be like the fools in Konoha who did nothing but watch me suffer. In order to spare others from having to live as I have, I will take a stand and defend the defenseless. It is not because you are giving me information, power, or pleasure that I will defend Shien. In addition to doing it because it's the right thing to do, I'll go one step further and shield your bitch ass to spare Shien from losing her mother before I hang your ass over this guard rail and use you like the whore you're acting like. Be a good bitch, obey, and get the fuck out of my face. Moroku swallowed, tried to recover from her shock, collected herself for a moment, and said, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" While Shien's face was flushed with shock, rage, and embarrassment. The next instant, Shien and Moroku were both lifted into the air, grabbed by two Cage-Bun Shin, and flung from the ship's deck into the sea. Well, looks like the Hellcat is just like the bitch, neither knows how to swim, Naruto said as he leapt over the ship rail and landed on the water on his feet. Observing both Moroku and Shien drawing, he then went over and grabbed Shien's arm, holding her just out of the water enough to prevent her from drowning, and then he pulled her over to where Moroku was and grabbed her arm to lift her sufficiently to prevent her from drowning. Naruto said, "Do I have both of your attentions now? Good. First off, you both deserved what I just did to you because you both have forgotten the simple truth. You both came in this world but ass naked, kicking and screaming like everyone else on this planet, as the women's hair was in a mess and their makeup was also ruined. No matter who your parents are, what abilities you possess, what blood runs through you, or how wealthy or influential your friends and family are, you have no right to act like you're all-powerful. It really doesn't matter in life because you can be killed just as easily as anyone else with a simple kunai to the back of the skull. Nothing else matters, not even a fancy title. If you want respect from others, you must first earn it. You believe you deserve it. So now accept it. I don't see any priestesses at the moment. I see a hellcat and a bitch. Start gaining my respect with deeds rather than words if you wish to do so. While the real Naruto picked up Miroku's bridal style and carried her back to the ship, a Kabibunshin appeared and picked Shion up, saying, "Words are free, actions aren't." Naruto threw them onto the hard deck as soon as they were on board, causing them to both yell. He then leapt back over the rail, put his hands together, and uttered the words, "Kagebunshin no Jutsu." The ship's side was engulfed in smoke. The real Naruto said, "Okay, start spreading out and start water walking beside the ship while trying to recreate that chain thing we did earlier. After it cleared and there were more than 200 Kagebunshin, we have less than a year to build up the strength to kick some demons. Go." As the original started training alongside the Kagebunshin, a number of cries of "HAI" could be heard as they dispersed and got to work. Looking off the deck at all of the Narutos, Shion rubbed her ass up on the deck and remarked, "Mom, he is so frustrating." "Yes, but he is also a great person who also happens to be right," Miroku said, laughing as she rubbed her ass with a smirk on her lips and a flush on her cheeks. She said, "He may be passionate in the way he speaks, but I do know that he is a man of action." Shion's face flushed as she saw this and exclaimed, "Mother. Don't mother me," Miroku remarked. "I know him better than you do." Shion crossed her arms and remarked, "And I don't want to either." Miroku grinned even more and remarked, "Sucks to be you then, dear." Miroku turned and began to leave as Shion flushed and she laughed, saying, "Come on, we need to get some dry cloths on before we get sick. Funny how every time we get alone time with him we both wind up getting hot, bothered, and wet." Shion paused to consider what her mother meant, and when she realized, she screamed, "Mother." Her face turned Hinata red, and she then looked at all of Naruto's, remembering the way he had looked the night before as he was drying his clothes and blushing while putting his fingers together. She then heard Miroku laugh from the door where she was standing, and Shion screamed before pushing her hands down to her side and stomping after her mother. While pressing flowers in Konoha, Hinata Hyuga turned to face the east and asked herself, "Why'd I feel like someone just stole my copyrights?" A few hours later, as the sun started to set, the real Naruto approached the ship's deck and defeated the Kagebunshin before sagging down and leaning against the rails. Captain Gnome approached Naruto while he was seated, holding a bottle of sake, and said, "Here," before giving the bottle to Naruto. After examining it, Naruto uttered the words, "What? Sake. It will help you relax after your earlier swim. It's also a tried and true method for men to temporarily forget about their problems with women," Gnome said. "Here." With a scowl, Naruto swallowed the bottle and started coughing. Gnome laughed and remarked, "You know, it could be worse." Feeling the sting of the sake, Naruto questioned, "What do you mean?" Gnome replied, "What I mean is that you could have had it a whole lot worse in life than you do." Gazing out to sea, Naruto uttered the words, "Doubt it." Gnome laughed and replied, "Skeptical huh? Let me tell you something, kid. If you would have been a Jinchuriki in my home village, you would have been physically and emotionally trained with torture, drugs, seals, and other inhumane things that you couldn't even imagine in your worst dreams. Haven't you noticed how besides the two ladies that you haven't actually seen anyone else on this ship besides me?" asked Gnome as Naruto's eyes widened and he turned to face him. With a bewildered tone, Naruto uttered, "Actually, I guess I hadn't thought about that." Gnome added, "If Miroku was willing to go to such lengths to protect her daughter as she did with you, don't you think she would have made sure she was protected here as well?" As Naruto put it, "Yeah, hey, how do you know about that?" "I'm not just the captain of this ship, kid," Gnome said with a laugh, "but I'm also the captain of the royal guards that are responsible for keeping those two ladies safe. Miroku might have trusted you enough to enter her private rooms, but I definitely didn't, and I will stop at nothing to keep those girls safe, spying on them to ensure their safety while a stranger is on board as part of that." Naruto looked at Gnome and said, "You're lucky, kid. I nearly killed you last night after you told Shion you might leave her ass in the water, and trust me, I know exactly how to kill a Jinchuriki." The pale Naruto asked, "How?" "Decapitation works nicely," Gnome said. "Anyway, as I was saying, from what I heard about your life in Konoha, you had it a hell of a lot better than either of the Jinchuriki they have back in Iwa," Gnome said, laughing as Naruto's eyes widened and went white. Glancing at Gnome in terror, Naruto went pale once more and uttered the words, "Iwa." "Oh yeah, I was an Iwa nin," Gnome said, "because I was there when your old man slaughtered 1,000 Iwa nins. In fact, I was in charge of the Iwa nins that day. I heard who your old man was, and if you had blonde hair, you would look a lot like him. There are benefits to being the son of the Nidaime Tsuchikage." After Naruto got to his feet and hurried into a defensive stance, Gnome remarked, "Damn, someone screwed the hell out of your training. I faced inebriated bystanders with stronger stances than you." Naruto swallowed hard and uttered, "I'm not scared of you." "Calm down, kid," Gnome said, "I'm just here to talk. If I wanted to hurt or kill you, I would have done it long ago, nothing more." With a frown, Naruto uttered, "Talk about what?" "First I want to say thank you for teaching my daughter and granddaughter a lesson," Gnome said, gazing out to sea. Gnome said, "Calm down, both of them are unconscious right now because I put a sedative in their food so I could talk to you privately also. Don't tell anyone, including either of them, what I just said to you." Naruto blinked. Then his eyes widened and he looked in the direction of the girl's rooms. "Miroku is unaware that I am her father, and you will not reveal it either." "How can she not know?" inquired Naruto. "Remember when I told you that Jinchuriki are treated much worse in Iwa than you were?" "Well, Iwa has two Jinchurikis," Gnome said, biting his lip. "Both Han, Jinchuriki of the Gobi, and Rushi, Jinchuriki of the Yanbi, are my half-brothers and the sons of the Naidame Tsuchikage." "Your brothers," Naruto said in a shocked voice as his eyes widened. With his eyes closed, Gnome nods and says, "Sadly, we were never a family where both Han and Roshi were considered weapons. I was considered Theer Master." Naruto inquired, "What do you mean, being the oldest? Father personally trained me and gave me the task of turning Han and Roshi into weapons," Gnome said, glancing at Naruto. Gazing fearfully at Gnome, Naruto let out a gasp. "I did everything you could think of to them because I did not see them as my brothers," Gnome said. "After noticing this, I only saw them as the beast they held. I subjected them to physical and mental torture and applied control seals, but it wasn't enough. I had to perfect them as weapons. In my attempt to accomplish that, I traveled to Oni country and met Miroku's mother. I asked her to give me her demon-dealing secrets, but she refused," he said, looking down. "What happened?" Naruto asked, biting his lip. Gnome stated, "When she refused, I made her watch as I killed her people, burn her village, and destroy her country, and she still refused to give me what I came for. After that, I spent the next 7 days mentally, physically, and sexually torturing her." You, Naruto stammered as he pointed his finger at Gnome. "Monster, demons, I know," Gnome said, "but she never caved in to me. As I was about to leave, she stood up to me defiantly and told me, 'A time will come when you see the light, when you do, your enemy will become your ally. You will protect that which you have destroyed. Your legacy will never know you, and you will train your greatest enemy's legacy to protect your own.' I will never forget what happened, but she refused to give me her secrets no matter what I did to her. I told you how I was there the day your father killed all those Iwa nins. That I was the leader that day. After your father killed all my men, he turned to me and was prepared to kill me when both Han and Roshi appeared between him and me," Gnome said, as Naruto looked perplexed. "They were there to keep me safe. I had instructed them both to attack two distinct targets in two different directions away from the battle I was at, so I was really taken aback by this. I couldn't understand what was happening because they had resisted the torturing seals, disregarded all of my warnings about pain and punishment, and seemed to be protecting me despite the crimes I had committed against them. During that day, they looked at me and said, 'We heard you were facing our greatest enemy and we came to protect you and ensure your victory today, brother,' in response to my demands for an explanation of their presence." After wiping a tear from his cheek, Gnome said, "You have no idea how shocked and perplexed I was by this, and your father told me that true strength comes from protecting that which you hold dear." He then cut his hand with his own kunai and threw it on the ground in front of him, saying, "You and your brothers, by working together to protect each other, were the only Iwa nins who drew blood from me today." He then departed. I stood there utterly numb as my brothers showed me the kunai. All of the hurt I had ever caused them and all of the things I had ever said to them returned to me, and for the first time in my life, I realized that they were who they had always been, my brothers. With a small smile, Gnome said, "I was a broken man after that. I took the seals off of Han and Roshi, and we went back to Iwa together. I then went up to the Sandaime Tsuchikage and told him that Han and Roshi were no longer Iwa's weapons. We fought, and I broke both of his hips. I would have killed him, but some people took Han and Roshi hostage because they wouldn't fight back. I made a deal in return for letting both of my brothers retire and lead normal lives. I would leave Iwa forever ashamed of what I had done that day and the battle I had lost. On the condition that neither could leave Earth Country, Oanoki agreed. The looks I got from the people of my country were nothing compared to the looks I got from my brothers when they told me they forgave me. The guilt of knowing what I did to them was enough to make me want to die, and ironically, that's when she showed up that day before I left my homeland forever. I gave both of my brothers the first and only hug I had ever given them." "Who?" asked Naruto. "Miroku, mother," Gnome said. "I was sitting in the woods with a dagger, about to commit suicide, when she emerged from the woods and stopped in front of me. After a moment of staring at her, I was only able to nod when she asked if I remembered her. Then, as I started to talk, she asked if I still remembered the last thing she had said to me before I left. When she said, "You have seen the light, now it is time for you to meet your legacy and protect that which you had destroyed," I nodded my head once more. When I heard a girl's voice coming from the woods, Miroku came out, saw me lying on the ground in front of her mother, and inquired about my identity. "He is just a stranger who seems to be looking for a chance to start a new life," her mother said. Glancing at me, "He is obviously a ninja, but he isn't wearing a headband, so he must not be with any villages. Maybe he would be open to returning to our kingdom and helping to keep it safe." "Yes, he does, but the man your father was is dead and gone forever." "What do you say, sir? Would you come and protect my kingdom and the legacy Miroku here represents?" Gnome said. Laughing a little, Miroku looked at me right then and said, "Mom, he looks sort of like what you told me Dad looked like. Since then, I have done everything in my power to atone for my sins by defending Miroku and Oni country. It appears that the final prophecy she mentioned has come true, as my greatest enemy's legacy stands in front of me and swears to uphold my legacy. I'm going to teach you everything I know so that you can protect my legacy and their home," Gnome said as Naruto pursed his lips. "You have no other option." "But," said Naruto. "No buts," Gnome said. "You promised both of those girls that you would keep them safe. Do you genuinely believe that you can train yourself to be dependable between now and the arrival of demons?" Frowning, Naruto uttered the words, "I guess not." "Good," Gnome said. "After that, you can refer to me as Captain or Gnome Sensei. Do you get it?" Naruto began to speak and Gnome responded, "Good, now since I saw how bad your taijutsu is, that is the first thing we are going to work on. And by the way, Naruto, I know you were upset and angry with my daughter and granddaughter, but you ever talk to them like that again and the beating I am about to give you will be nothing compared to what you will receive then." As Gnome started beating the living daylights out of Naruto, Naruto blinked and exclaimed, "What awe?" When Miroku and Shion emerged on deck the following morning, they saw Naruto lying there twitching, bloody, bruised, and severely beaten. Shion exclaimed, "What happened?" "Naruto tried a little sip of sake last night to warm up while we talked and I told him I was the captain of the guards," Gnome said as he approached with a cup of coffee. Then, without holding back, he asked to spar with me. "Isn't that correct, Naruto?" Weakly, Naruto said, "Hi sensei." "Oh, I offered to teach him a few things as well," Gnome said. "Correct, Naruto." Before fainting, Naruto twitched and said, "Hi." After walking over and giving him a foot bump, Shion declared, "I think he's dead." "Nonsense," Gnome said. "He will return in a few hours stronger than before. Arrived in Oni country just in time." "Well, if you both agree, Captain, then I suppose I can support your decisions. However, please don't beat him as badly the next time," Miroku said. "That appears painful, even if he is a ninja." According to Gnome, "Hi Miroku-sama." Shion chuckled, stepped on Naruto's back, and exclaimed, "Who's the Hellcat now?" "No one. I guess all I see is a wet pussy," Naruto said as chains flew out of his back, sending Shion over the rail and into the ocean once more. On his way back to the ship after rescuing Shion again, Naruto declared, "I swear, when we get the time I am going to teach you how to fucking swim." Glaring at him, Shion declared, "I hate you." "Good," said Naruto. The amused expressions on both of their faces changed from half smirks to full-fledged laughter when Shion turned to face the ship where Miroku and Gnome were standing and she asked, "Why are you both laughing?" When Naruto noticed Shion crossing her arms and pouting, he said, "Stop pouting or a fish might mistake your lip for a worm." After they returned to the deck and Naruto helped her stand up, Shion clenched her fist and turned to slap Naruto before stomping off. When she returned, Gnome said, "You really know how to get under their skin, don't you? Anyways, why don't you go ahead and work on your chakra control and those chains again with your cage bun shins? But the real you stay on deck and meditate. After an hour create more cage bun shins before you meditate some more for another hour. That way your cage bun shin will be rested so you can get a lot more training done." "All right," Naruto said, rubbing his head, "but how do I meditate?" Miroku and Gnome paused, turned to face Naruto, and Gnome remarked, "You don't know how to meditate." Naruto replied, "No, I was kicked out of class when the other students learned how to do it. Since nobody would tell me what to do, I would just pretend I knew what to do by closing my eyes until meditation time was done." Miroku said, "Create your cage bun shins and come with me, I'll teach you to meditate," as Gnome scowled. Naruto looks at Gnome, who said, "Hey, it's your choice. I will only teach you when you don't have other things to learn or when I'm not busy. You're going to Oni country as a guest of Miroku-sama here. If she wants to teach you something, then you have to do what she says, not me." Naruto remarked, "What's so funny?" With a chuckle, Miroku said, Nothing at all. Go get Shion and bring her to my room and we will begin teaching you to meditate. According to Gnome, Kage Bunshin first though. With a nod, Naruto produced 150 Kage Bunshin and started to move in the direction of Shion's room. Moroku's grin widened even more after he left, and Gnome, wearing a perplexed expression, exclaimed, "What's so funny?" "That, I keep getting on to Shion that she should worry less about her makeup after she gets out of the shower and more on getting dressed before someone walks in on her. She always tells me that no one would dare walk in on her. Guess mother knows best," Moroku said as she turned to leave after hearing a shout of "Hentei." Gnome reflected after she left, "At this rate, I'm either going to be a grandfather again or a great-grandfather." Naruto had a red handprint on his face when Moroku entered her room, and Shion was glaring at him while wearing a bathrobe. Naruto remarked, "It's not my fault. Moroku told me to come get you. Besides, you shouldn't worry about your makeup until after you get dressed." Shion replied, "You did not have my permission to see my body regardless of what your reason are." Naruto replied, "Well, you showed me more of your body by throwing a tantrum in your female rage when you walked over to slap me. I saw more than I originally saw of you when I opened the door. All I saw before was your backside. Now I've seen everything else, so basically you did give me permissions." Hellcat, with a grin. The reddening of Shion's face prompted Moroku to say, "He's right, dear. I've been warning you for years, so you should have listened to me all these years." "Whose side are you on, Mom?" Shion asked, giving her mother a fierce look. Moroku replied, "My side. Now go get dressed and come back because we are going to teach Naruto-kun how to meditate." As Naruto hurried off to get dressed, Shion gave her a funny look and remarked, "You don't know how to meditate. What a baka." Moroku said, "Don't let her words get to you, Naruto. She's just upset that you seem to always come out on top. Something that happened with both of us it seems." Naruto glared at her back. Frowsing, Naruto remarked, "And women say men are perverted. Everyone is perverted in some way. If not, there wouldn't be any human life in this world," Moroku remarked with a laugh. "Can't argue with the truth, so how do we meditate?" sighed Naruto. Moroku replied, "Do you remember how you first learned to unseal and draw out your chakra?" Naruto replied, "Yeah, you sit down and put your hand in the ram seal and focus on trying to find the energy that you feel when you have your hands in that position instead of not in that position." "That's the most simplistic explanation I've ever heard. Who told you that?" said Moroku, blinking. Naruto replied, "It's how I heard this one student explain it to another when I was hiding once." "Why?" Moroku stated, "No wonder you have so much problems with your chakra control as well as not knowing how to meditate. You were never taught the proper way to draw it out. If you didn't have large reserves already, then you would have never unlocked your chakra. You're basically using brute force to do any jutsu." Naruto inquired, "What do you mean?" Moroku paused for a moment and said, "Think of chakra as a river. Now think of hand signs as a dam to help change the flow of water to keep from too much water going one way or to make sure the river doesn't go dry either when the water is low. Now you on the other hand are using your large chakra reserves like a flood. Sure, you get water where you want usually for a jutsu, but you also destroyed everything along the course of the river and wasted most of the water doing nothing. You with me so far?" Naruto nods slowly, thinking, "That actually makes sense." Moroku stated, "Good, now what meditation does is allows you to map out the course of the river. This helps because it allows you to know when and where to build the dam or when and which hand sign to use to do a jutsu correctly." "How do you map out the river?" asked Naruto. In his explanation, Shion, who had returned halfway through, stated, "You map out the river by starting at the source of your chakra, your heart." Moroku stated, "Usually that would be right for most people, but you actually have two sources, Naruto. One is your heart. The other is the seal on your stomach. Most people start map their next work from the source of their chakra to their first tenketsu." Naruto questioned, "The what?" After both Shion and Moroku blinked, Moroku remarked, "The tenketsu. You do know what that is, don't you?" "Mom, I know you told me what you know about Naruto, but I am finding this to be unacceptable." Shion slapped Naruto's face after she scowled, "Even though I know how to meditate and the tenketsu, and I'm not even a shinobi." Naruto replied, "That's something I actually wanted to ask you about. How do you use your priestess jutsu if you're not trained to use them?" Moroku looked at Shion and said, "I'll explain that at a later time, Naruto. Right now you need to learn to meditate. Now the tenketsu are the chakra points in your body that release chakra from your chakra coils. They are spread out all throughout your body. What you do is you sit down and focus on the chakra coming from your heart. Once you do that, then follow it throughout your body while memorizing where your tenketsu are. Once you have mapped out your entire network, you then start back at your heart and try and push the chakra along your chakra coils gently till you find the tenketsu. By pushing the chakra to that point, you're basically building a levee around that part of the river, making it where you can direct more chakra to that point easier. The stronger you can make the levee, the easier it will be to mold your chakra. How do I push the chakra exactly? Inquired Naruto. Moroku stated, you use the ram seal to push the chakra like you do for the water walking exercise. Naruto stated, so just use the ram seal. Shien continued, actually, that is only at first. You will actually have to learn to mold your chakra using every hand sign one at a time, so that way no matter which kind of dam you put up, you can control the river. And if you ever get really good, get to the point where you can mold your chakra correctly without the hand signs, then you would have perfect chakra control, or as close to perfect as possible. When he finally understood, Naruto said, oh. Moroku stated, now don't expect to do this all in one day. Even if you use Kage Bunshin to help you do this, it will still take you a long time, because not only do you need to learn to use the chakra from your heart but also the Kyuubi chakra, so that way if you have to use it you won't lose control. Naruto inquired, how do you know that? As Shien closed their eyes, Moroku remarked, because studying about demons also brought up the effects of demons on Jinchurikis. Now let's meditate. With his eyes closed, Naruto reflected, this will be easy. After an hour, Naruto leaned forward, panting, and Moroku asked, are you alright, Naruto? Naruto replied, I think I'm doing something wrong. I mean, my coils are going everywhere. Sometimes other parts of the coils cross each other and merge together before breaking off and going into more directions with smaller coils. I lost track of how many times I got lost. Gnome, who had entered the room, commented, sounds like you're doing it right. Work on your larger coils first and then work on your smaller ones. It's been an hour. Create more Kage Bunshin to continue to train. We are still at least an hour away from Oni country. Naruto replied, you didn't have to remind me. I remember what you said earlier. Gnome replied, really? Then why did you not do it already when an hour was up, instead of taking so long that I had to come remind you? I don't know what you did in Konoha, but in the real world if you are given orders to do something at a certain time, you have to learn to do it exactly when you are told to, or it could cost you or someone else their life. With a frown, Naruto uttered, all right, Kagebunnshin no jutsu. More than 400 Kage Bunshin were dogpiled on top of everyone in one room after the smoke had cleared. Shien screamed, get off me you pervert, as she was pressed up against the walls by multiple Narutos. From the bottom of a Naruto dogpile, Gnome yelled, damn it, learn to use mass area jutsu in open areas, not inside. Where his head struck the floor, the real Naruto had stars in his eyes. Moments later, all of the clones in the room and outside went up in smoke, while the real Naruto blew back with a nosebleed and a huge perverted smile on his face. Moroku, who was sandwiched between several Naruto, blinked for a moment before a smirk slowly appeared on her face and she started whispering in one of the clone's ears, causing the clone to freeze and blush before disappearing in smoke. What happened? Shien asked, glancing around before turning to face the unconscious Naruto. Gnome gave her a suspicious look as the flushed Moroku uttered, who knows? When Naruto woke up, he was in a very soft bed in a large room with expensive furniture and a large arched doorway on one wall. Naruto looked around, blinking, thinking, what the hell, where am I? Ah, Naruto-sama, you're finally awake. The woman, who had black hair and was in her late 20s, gasped as she saw Naruto and bowed to him, saying, I'll inform Moroku-sama at once. This moment snapped Naruto out of his reverie. As the woman backed out the door, Naruto called out to her, wait. After pausing, the woman said, yes, Naruto-sama. Where am I? Who are you, and how do you know my name, and why are you calling me Sama? Asked Naruto, glancing around. The lady stated, my name is Shior. I am one of the house cleaning staff here at the palace. Palace? What palace? Inquired Naruto. Shior replied, the palace of Lady Moroku and Lady Shien here in the capital of Oni country. Naruto-sama. With a frown, Naruto asked, when how long have I been here? Shior replied, 2 days ago. Lady Shien and Lady Moroku returned from their meeting with you. Naruto-sama. Did they say anything about what their meeting with me was about? Bit Naruto's lip as he looked down. Shior replied, of course Naruto-sama. Lady Moroku told us that you are from a long line of holy warriors who have spent over 10 generations battling the most powerful of demons, the Bijus. She informed us that unfortunately the battles against those demons has decimated your family, leaving you as possibly the last of your family line, with both your parents dying the day they battle Kyuubi at Konoha to help them defeat the Biju. As such, she has agreed to assist you in continuing your clan legacy by allowing you to come here to train, as well as a place for you to rest and restore your energy from fighting the Kyuubi all alone all these years. Blinking, Naruto remarked, I see, so then you know about my relations to the Kyuubi. Shior replied, yes, the people of Oni country know about your status as a Jinchuriki, but unlike some places, Oni country knows the difference between you and the demon you contain, because we have had our fair share of trouble with demons before. Naruto replied, why is that? I mean, why is your country called Oni country? I think that is a question you should ask Lady Miroku-sama, Shior said, biting her lip. Naruto replied, I see. Well, if you don't mind, I'm not too much on formalities, so just call me Naruto. I haven't done anything to earn your respect, and I don't think people should be respected unless they earn that respect. Shior replied, I couldn't do that, Naruto-sama. Anyone who saves the lives of people from demons is someone to be respected. Is there anything I can do for you, Naruto-sama? Could you tell me where I can find either Shien, Miroku, or Gnome? Asked Naruto, scowling. Shior stated, Lady Shien and Lady Miroku are in the main hall and Master Gnome is training the royal guards in the courtyard. Naruto replied, okay, how do I get to them from here? I was sort of passed out when we arrived. Shior looked embarrassed and replied, forgive me, Naruto-sama, I didn't realize you did not see how to get here when you arrive. All you have to do is when you exit this room, you take the hall here to the left and it circles around to the main hall, while you head right and it will take you to the courtyard. The design of the palace is quite simple. There are 2 stories. The first floor is mostly made up staff and security. The general shape is basically a square inside of a square. You have 1 hall on the east side and 1 hall on the west side, with a set of stairs meeting and coming down into the main hall, either near the courtyard entrance or by the throne area of the main hall. We are currently on the 2nd floor on the east wing, where Lady Shien and Lady Miroku sleep, while most guest rooms are on the west wing. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, I see. Where's the restroom? It's the door to your left, Naruto-sama, Shior stated. As he stood up, Naruto said, thanks. He heard Shior turn around, and he thought, don't ask why am I nearly naked, don't ask who took my cloths off, just go freshen and find some cloths. Wait, these aren't the same boxers I had on before. Damn it, I don't know if I should be aroused or scared knowing someone saw the beast, as Miroku calls it. He turned to face the bathroom door and stepped inside. Once his clothes were clean and ready for him, he left the room. After getting ready for the day, he glanced to his left and right before recalling Gnome's advice and thinking, might as well go see the ladies first since they are the ones in charge here. When Naruto arrived at the main hall, he blinked and thought, well, this doesn't look like what I thought it would look like. Strange paper walls that slide into the outer walls that allows them to either have a grand hall or several smaller sections for privacy and other things. I like it. He started to move through the maze of paper walls, getting stopped occasionally by people who wanted to direct him or introduce themselves, as well as by those who were showing him respect, which he tried to stop. At last, Naruto discovered Shien sitting off to the side, practicing calligraphy while listening to her mother and the men, while Miroku was sitting on a throne on her knees, listening to a couple of men. Pardon me for interrupting you both, gentlemen, but an honored guest of mine has finally recovered from his long journey here enough to join us. Would you both mind if I speak with him and my daughter momentarily privately, so I can give you both my full attention afterwards? Miroku said, her eyes widening slightly as she saw Naruto arrive. A tiny smile also appeared on her face. Before they left the room, both men bowed to her, Shien, and Naruto. Miroku asked, how are you feeling, Naruto? After they had left. A little confused, but alright I guess. Why did I sleep so long though? Naruto said, glancing around. Miroku stated, you were mentally, physically and emotionally tired, Naruto. In less than a month your entire world has been turned upside down. You may not have realized it, but you were going from hell-bent Avenger to total pacifist and back again in a matter of seconds. You couldn't control yourself to the point I was worried you might actually hurt yourself as well as others just to end everything. That is why after you passed out I had asked Gnome to give you a sedative to help you relax until your body and mind had a chance to relax. That was 5 days ago. Naruto replied, but Shior said we only got here 2 days ago. Miroku replied, she's right, we got here at the palace 2 days ago. It's nearly 3 days travel from the coast to here. Naruto replied, oh, why is this country called Oni country? You remember how the Forest of Death has so many minor demons, right? Miroku asked after blinking for a few seconds. Naruto nods and Miroku said, There is a tower in the center of the Forest of Death that Konoha uses. But the tower predates Konoha. A long time ago a cult of demon worshippers lived there and would offer sacrifices to demons who offered them gifts of power or wealth in exchange for the sacrifices. The rituals that they used opened a gateway between our world and the demon world. It's not a very big gateway, which is why only minor demons can escape into the forest there. When Konoha was founded, the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan banished the cult from Their Tower and out of the Fire Country. The cult took everything they could, including the wealth and weapons they had been given by the demons, and they came to this country to continue to worship the demons. A group of priest and priestess came together and killed them in order to protect the world. But the cult had hidden their treasure of wealth and weapons somewhere in the mountains of this country. Men have come searching for this wealth and power and have been seduced by the evil the items contain. They become little more than puppet slaves to the demons who wish to come to our world to stop them. The priest and priestess created this village where my ancestors have protected these lands, stopping those who come seeking power and greed and turning back any and all demons who escape into our world to scare people away from searching for the treasure. We named this country Oni Country. After giving it some thought, Naruto said, I see. According to Shien, I'm done, mother. Moroku replied, good Shien. Now I want you and Naruto to be together for the next month as much as possible. I want you both to go to my private library and you will get yourself a book to study in Naruto. I am allowing you access to my library, but I only want 4 books out of my library at a time, and Shien will have one of those 4. Have her help you pick out the other 3 you will get, and then she will take you to where Gnome is at. You will use Kajbunshin to read the books for you in order to train your mind, while Gnome will help you train your body. You are not to go anywhere without Shien, and Shien is not allowed to go anywhere without you until you both are ready to retire for the day, or if you need to freshen up, but you are her guard and she is your guide. Do you both understand? Both of the blondes nod and Moroku says, good, and I hope you enjoy your stay here. Naruto, sadly I must return to my duties now, but I will check up on you both when I can now go. Putting her calligraphy kit away, Shien said, follow me. After Shien had led Naruto up the stairs and out of the main hall, she turned and gave him a startling slap across the face, saying, I hate you. Glaring at her, Naruto scowled and uttered, really, and why is that? Shien responded, I hate you because you're taking my mother from me. Wait, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not taking your mother from you, Naruto said, blinking. Shien replied, yes you are. Ever since my mother returned with you, it's been all you. Everything has to revolve around you now. Mother gets up, gets ready, and instead of spending time with me like she used to, she comes, checks on you as soon as you show up. She forgets everything and worries only about you. You claim you're going to make it where you will save mom, so she will be with me, but she's not going to be there with me. She will be there with you. I wish you never came here, you lying thief. Just go and leave us alone. As she walked away. As he watched Shien stomp off, Naruto scowled and pondered, but after putting his hands in his pockets and turning around, Naruto started to slowly leave. After he left, a figure emerged from one of the doors and glanced at Shien's before turning to face Naruto. Soon after, Naruto was outside and noticed people training, strolling, or entering the palace. He turned and left, thinking, I don't belong here. Shien's right, I shouldn't have come here. I should leave. I'll go make sure I got all my stuff before leaving. He heard Moroku say, why did you do that, Shien? As he was getting closer to his room. With a frown, Naruto heard Shien say calmly, do what, mother? When Naruto started to move stealthily toward the open door, he noticed Shien sitting on her bed with Moroku standing there, staring at her with her arms folded, and he said, I'm waiting, Shien. Fine, I'm eliminating the competition, mother, Shien said with a sly smile as he turned to face Moroku. She thinks I'm competing for time with Moroku, Naruto mused. Shien chuckled as Moroku repeated what Naruto had just thought, adding, no mother, not competition for you, I'm getting rid of the competition for him. It made Naruto think, okay, I'm confused now. When Moroku realized what Shien was referring to, he said, oh, explain to me, Shien, how you are doing that. Shien got up to say, simple mother, you see, I make him feel guilty about being with you, making him think he's taking you away from me. He will feel bad about that and won't spend any time with you in fear of hurting me. He also won't want to hurt you, so since you were so kind as to order him to spend so much time with me, I can pretend to be angry with him, and he, over time while we are together, I will slowly change to be kinder to him, making him enjoy his time with me more until he falls in love with me. Then once he does, I help him realize you didn't actually love him but only wanted him for his bloodline in order to protect me and you from that demon. This way he will respect you for caring for me but won't trust you enough where you could steal him from me, a perfect tsundere. As Moroku put it, makes perfect sense. As he rubbed his head, Naruto asked himself, and how the hell does that make sense? Moroku laughed and replied, but you forget Shion that I have more experience than you and I already have a huge advantage over you, not to mention how I tricked him into not trusting others so easily. Shion nods as she replies, yes, I liked how you did that, mother. By making him not trust others you eliminate many of my future threats to Hussey stealing him, and while I admit you do have an advantage over him, you are also twice his age and you have duties as the head priestess and as a mother you have to deal with, which gives me the advantage to overcome your advantage in his heart. Why should he be with someone with sagging boobs when he could be with someone more perfect like mine, as she grasped her breast. Moroku stated, what good is having a younger body if you don't know how to use it? Experience is where it counts and I have far more experience than you. I thought mothers were supposed to give their children what they wanted. Why are you getting in my way? Shion said, squinting her eyes. Moroku replied, children are supposed to respect their mothers, so why are you getting in mine? Naruto, who was observing, asked, are they shooting lightning out of their eyes? As the two women started to glare at one another. He said, Cradle robber. A male voice interrupted Moroku as she was about to say, quite a show, huh Naruto? Shion and Moroku both froze, then turned to face the door to see Gnome standing behind Naruto, his hands on both of his shoulders, his face pale and motionless. Stuttering, Shion said, how long have you been there? As he patted Naruto back, Gnome grinned and remarked, I know the name of thy enemy and thy name is woman. Will someone please explain to me what is going on? I'm totally confused. Said Naruto, shaking his head. Shion glanced at her mother and said, well you see, Moroku said, turning to face Shion. Gnome continued, long story short, both these ladies like you. Why I don't know, you will have to figure that out yourself, but even though they are mother and daughter they see each other as rivals and it appears that both of them are trying to manipulate you in order for you to love them individually. You also just got your first true glimpse of the woman's mind. It is something that no man will ever be able to fully understand. Naruto rubbed his temples and remarked, I think I'm starting to understand Sasuke Tensum. I could have sworn I was just seeing Ino and Sakura instead of Moroku and Shion. Both Shion and Moroku were flushed. Gnome replied, probably was woman, all believe in the same rules. Gazing at Gnome, Naruto uttered the words, what rules? Gnome stated, a female always believes she makes the rules, which are subject to change without notice, and no male can know or understand all the rules, and should a man appear to be right the female must change the rules immediately in order to prove the female is never wrong. Just that the male did not understand what she was meaning, thinking, or saying when her actions or words testify that you were right to begin with before she changed the rules. She can change her mind at any time without notice, and the male must apologize for his mistake in not understanding. You must do what she wants, not what she says at all times, and you need to be able to read her mind without her knowing, and if she has PMS, well, I'd rather be stuck in a volcano being burned alive than try to figure out a woman's mind at that time. After Shion gave Gnome a stern look, Moroku said sweetly, that could be arranged, Gnome. Naruto interrupted Gnome's sentence with, I'm even more confused now. Why are they fighting over me? Why me? I'm nothing special. That's not true, Naruto. You are something special, Moroku said politely. Shion replied, yeah, you're different than everyone else I ever met. Moroku stated, you're kind, caring, you don't like to see people suffer, you compassionate. Shion replied, you don't care about what others say or think, you don't treat me like a priestess, you treat me like a normal girl, and you not scared about my powers. Moroku stated, you were willing to risk everything when you thought you were escaping Konoha in order to come get me to be with you. You gave me almost every dime you had to protect me when you thought I was in danger. You make me laugh and also question myself in making me realize that the way I act and treat others isn't the right way I should be, Shion said, glaring at her mother. Moroku replied, you're willing to trust me even though I betrayed you. When they were talking, Naruto, who had been pacing back and forth, grabbed his head and let out a frustrated scream. You're both crazy, you know that, he said, looking at Gnome, after he had stopped screaming. I don't know if I should be flattered or pissed. I want to kiss you and slap your ass at the same time. Do they get that from you or their mother? Because right now I'm thinking about running as far and fast as I can. Before Naruto's mind realized what he had said, he turned pale and said, oh shit, I didn't mean. As he looked at Gnome with a terrified expression on his face, he then turned to face Shion and said, ignore what I just said. I was just ranting. Gnome told me he sees you as the family he never had. He rubbed the back of his head and looked sheepish. Gnome, who had been laughing up until that point, froze when he heard this. You're lying, Naruto. You scrunch up your eyes with a fake smile when you lie so people can't see your eyes. Gnome, I want an explanation. What does Naruto know that we don't? Moroku said in a commanding tone as she looked at Gnome impassively. With a frown, Gnome asked, does it matter? Moroku looked at him and replied, yes, it matters. I want to know why Naruto seems to think we are related, and why does he act like you were the one who told him that, and why would you tell him that? The man who your father was is dead, Moroku. He died a long time ago. Honor the memory of him you have from your mother's stories and leave the past where it belongs, buried forever, Gnome said. Pushing his back off the wall he had been leaning against, he turned and began to walk toward the door, but a barrier appeared to block it. I can keep this up all day. I don't care what you say. I want answers, Gnome said, scowling as she turned to face Moroku, who had her hand in a seal. Gnome responded, Moroku, please let it go. I've served you and your mother faithfully all these years since we met when you were a teenager. Please, out of respect for that, let it go. Shion approached Moroku, placed a hand on her shoulder, and uttered the words, Gnome, please. Gnome rested his head and looked at Naruto as he gulped and said, you are your father's son. You both show up turning my life upside down and take everything I know from me. Yes, I'm your father, Moroku. All the stories your mother told you about me were lies to hide the dark truth. I came to this country looking for power. I burned this land to the ground while killing every man, woman, and child until all that was left was your mother. The things I did to her was worse than all the demons of the world put together could. I had took great pleasure out of her pain and suffering, taking everything from her. I'm worse than a demon. Demons are born demons and can't help but be evil. I'm worse than them because I chose to become evil and I took great pleasure out of it. I am a monster. Are you happy now? When he noticed the barrier still place. This is all my fault. I accidentally said something I shouldn't have and now I've destroyed their lives, Naruto thought as he glanced at the dejected Gnome, then at Moroku, whose face was neutral, and finally at Shion, who had a shocked expression on her face. Moroku got up, went to the window, and looked out as Naruto closed his eyes and started to look down. If what you said is true, then why are you here now? Are you still trying to learn the secrets of these lands? Moroku asked.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.